And here we go. Lyle, for tonight's show, can you introduce me as Joker?
As you wish. Joker.
Oh.
That was like a mix of like Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger right there.
Yeah.
Hybrid Joker.
Well, I mean, like, even Heath Ledger drew inspiration from Cesar Romero. Anyways, guys, welcome to So to Speak. I'm Evan Mead.
I'm Lyle Groniger.
Tonight,
Wait, I thought your name was Joker.
I lied, sorry.
Fucker.
Basically, this is part 2 in our superhero movie Memory Lane extravaganza. Last week's 3-hour-ish episode was dedicated to the recap of Marvel Studios then and now, meaning like where they started in the terms of the first live-action movie that they ever made. And today we are exploring the cinematic world of Detective Comics. Yes, that is what DC Comics stands for.
Detective Comics.
Hey, I didn't make the company name.
And we're joined with our guest yet again, Michael Lake. Hello,
Yes.
Michael.
Hello.
Yeah. So once again, Michael is actor, writer, producer based out of Toronto. He's got a real knack for the comic book movie genre, and it's always great to hear him recount his experiences at the cinema, his emotional experiences within a movie, or just watching a movie. So we're good to have him here. It's great to have him back.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Yeah. So to establish today, we're tackling DC. DC Comics actually was founded before Marvel Comics by 5 years. The comic company was founded in 1934, but while Marvel had their first ever theatrical live-action movie with Captain America released in 1944, the first live-action DC movie about a DC hero came in 1951. And the movie was called...
Take a wild guess what this movie is called, Michael.
Or who was the first DC hero to be turned into a theatrical movie?
1951, you say?
Yeah.
Ooh. Was it a Superman film?
It certainly
It
was.
was a Superman film, and you're never going to guess this title. The film is called Superman and the Mole Men.
Yes, Superman and the Mole Men. This stars the...
No one's gay for Mole Men.
Oh, God. This is the... This movie actually got a theatrical release because it's 58 minutes long, and it was the...
Oh, wow.
It was a theatrically released pilot for the 50s TV show called Adventures of Superman. And Supes was played by George Reeves in this version. Now, he's not...
Yeah.
He is, just for the record, he's not related to Christopher Reeve. And Christopher Reeve is just Reeve. And another fun fact, there's a movie that Lyle and I have both been meaning to watch where it's called Hollywoodland, and George Reeves is played by Ben Affleck, who is going to come up in this episode. And Diane Lane is also in it.
I've never seen it, but I'm aware of the film, and
Yeah.
I think that's a funny little instance of career foreshadowing.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny, yeah.
And especially when you consider like Diane Lane is in it too.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So, our after the 50s, we have our official release of a DC feature based on a really, really kooky 1960s show. And that
I
film,
know what we're doing here.
that film was called Batman, the movie.
This had everyone. This had Adam West, Burt Ward, Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith, and they got like a plethora of villains.
Yeah, it's basically Batman versus Riddler, Penguin, Joker, and Catwoman.
Wow, and we thought some of the Spider-Man movies had overcrowded villains.
We thought Endgame was the most ambitious crossover, and Batman the movie was just like, hold my beer.
Yeah. Well, technically, it's like Batman would have come first chronologically, so it's like we are the most ambitious superhero film ever. Thanos comes along. Hold my gauntlet.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah, have any of you seen this?
Yes, I have seen.
I saw
I have seen this movie. A couple years ago. I think it used to be on Netflix.
It was on Netflix?
Yeah, I think so.
It might have been.
I saw it like 10 years ago. I don't remember it very well. I just know it was like just as kooky as the show it was based on. Has a lot of like really cheesy and kind of poorly executed fight scenes. The final climax takes place on a submarine, and it's just all the actors kicking and punching each other into a lake.
I have seen clips from this movie. I've seen the clip where he's running around with a cartoon bomb.
Oh, that's the best scene in the movie, I'd say.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
And then there's a frickin' toy dollar store toy shark attacking his leg.
I think that bat shark repellent, which is established in this movie, is like one of the funniest, randomest things to ever come out of the Batman canon.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. Like, that's hilarious. That reminds me of something that we're going to talk about in another certain movie that's on our list. So that's Batman the movie. I've given all the hype you guys have just built up to it. I now really want to see it.
I mean, I wouldn't call it hype. I'd just say it's a fun, silly time.
Yeah.
If you like if you appreciate the '60s Batman, if you like Adam West, then yeah, definitely give it a shot.
Yeah.
Sure.
Next movie on our list. It seems like each of these DC characters would get a movie made about them once every 10 or 12 years or so, because the next movie didn't come out until 1978, and this was Superman with Christopher Reeves, sorry. Now, I have seen this movie. I think it's kind of dry. The first 10 minutes are really boring, and the movie Man of Steel, which we'll talk about later, owes a lot to this movie in terms of how it handles its origin. But that's a whole other can of worms. It's kind of slow. It's only interesting once Clark Kent actually becomes Superman. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty. I don't know. Like, I have a hard time sitting through Superman. Quite honestly, I find it a little dated now. I know a lot of people hold it in high esteem, but me, I just can't get into it.
Yeah, the Christopher Reeves Superman films, I don't think I've ever actually seen any of them, to be honest with you. Like, little bits here and there have always come up, or I've maybe seen them in pieces or whatever, but I won't have a lot to contribute to those films.
Yeah, I remember seeing the others. Like, I had the box set when I was a kid, and even still, like, I had no idea what was going on half the time. So what about Superman 2? Does anyone remember Superman 2?
All I know, I haven't seen it, but
I do have one note to make about the original Superman. It was actually written by the same screenwriter who wrote The Godfather.
Oh yeah,
Mario Puzo.
And Marlon Brando is in Superman with Jor-El.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite the infamous thing at the time. He was paid like an exorbitant amount of money for like not a crazy amount of screen time.
And he looks super bored.
Oh, so it's kind of like Robert Downey Jr. in Spider-Man: Homecoming, where like several $1 million went to him just for 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, but it looks like he's having more fun than Brando.
Oh, for sure. Well,
he's a professional.
There was you guys might be more well versed in the story, but I just know that there was a big falling out between Brando and the filmmakers, and he didn't come back for any more Superman movies for a very really shady reason.
I believe it. Brando didn't get along with most people.
Yeah, he was wasn't he like one of those big method actors who took his craft super seriously?
Yeah, he was a diva too, but like
this doesn't have anything to do with DC, but I figure as cinephiles you guys would appreciate this. There's actually, Lyle, I think we've maybe even spoken about it, but the Island of Dr. Moreau from the 90s.
I saw it a month ago, yeah.
Marlon Brando in that is quite the eccentric performance. He's leaning very heavily into the kind of weirdness of his persona at that point, and it's just so funny and so weird to watch. And the film was plagued with like so many different production problems.
Brando being difficult was the least of their worries on that set. Oh my god!
It actually beget a documentary all about the making of the film called Lost Soul, which is highly amusing and hilarious.
That would be a good episode to do, like just movies that had horrible productions. But anyways, we're moving on to DC. I have not seen Superman 2, or if I have, I do not remember it at all.
I just remember Terrence Stamp plays General Zod, and I think I saw a clip of it on TV where they're flying around Metropolis, and it's the lamest, most cheesiest green screen effect you'll ever see.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing with these Superman movies. Like, I bet at the time they were extremely novel. Like, the guy really wanted to make you believe that a man could fly. I believe that was the tagline. But, like, I don't know, looking back on it now, man, it's just like, I know it's green screen. It's not too convincing nowadays, but, you know, you gotta appreciate the verisimilitude. What was the word you used? Verisimilitude.
Yeah.
That was the word. But yeah, I don't remember Superman 2. The only thing I've heard about it is that the director lost his... I think he got fired after, like, during pre-production or something. And, like, or he lost control of his own film. And that's why there's two versions. There's the original and then there's the Richard Donner cut.
Oh, wow.
So...
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
It's kind of like a Terry Gilliam thing where it's like, oh, I didn't get the film I wanted. The studios interfered. Oh.
Yeah.
Ugliness.
The next thing after that is Swamp Thing in 1982. We're in the 80s now, by the way.
Who directed that? Wes Craven?
So, not, what's that Marvel movie that came out in 2005?
Man Thing.
Man Thing. And there's Swamp Thing. But Swamp Thing is directed by Wes Craven.
Yeah, this was the movie I was thinking about. Yeah. I'd never seen it. If you guys haven't seen it, we might have to move on.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Oh my god, Superman 3.
Which one is this?
The one with Richard Pryor in it.
Oh, right, yeah.
This was around the time where it's like, oh, if we make Superman into a buddy film, it'll be great. Richard Pryor tries his damnedest. This is the only one I actually remember watching the most, because it was the one I watched all the time. Because it was the one where Superman has to fight an evil version of himself.
Oh, yeah.
And he's losing his power because all that negativity in himself manifests into another being, and they have to fight in like a garbage pit. And then
that clip,
yeah, I remember that. And I remember one line. This one line always stuck with me. What color is Superman's suit? Is it red? Is it blue? Is it soup?
Oh god. Jeez.
And then a kid's yelling, I'm like, Superman, stop! You're being a bum! Or something like that. And
I have to see this now.
My favorite scene in the goddamn movie is when the villains, who are just like a bunch of typical criminals, there's nothing special about them, but one of the lady criminals falls into this machine, and it transforms her entire body into a killer robot, and she fights Superman as a killer robot.
Wow.
I don't even remember what happened, but it's just I remembered that, and I'm like, what the fuck, man?
So is this kind of like the whole dark persona of yourself, like with NECA Scott and Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Well, I mean, like, the trope of fighting your evil doppelganger is really nothing new.
Yeah.
I think they're clamoring for ideas.
Yeah.
Not too many people like Superman 3, but for some reason it's always stuck with me because it's just so weird.
This in 1983, Superman 3 and another threequel came out. This came out the same year as Return of the Jedi.
Oh, wow.
But we didn't know Return of the Jedi was a threequel. It turns out it would be the sixth movie, but we know the rest of the story. Next on the list is Supergirl. Now, I didn't really know that there was a Supergirl movie, but apparently it's a spin-off of the 1978 Superman movie. I want to see who directed it and who Supergirl was played by.
Yeah. It was directed by...
Faye Dunaway played Supergirl?
No, she's the villain,
Oh.
I think. Supergirl is played by Helen Slater?
And it's Kal-El's cousin, Kara-El.
Yeah, that's who Supergirl is. Peter O'Toole is in this movie? Mia
I wasn't aware
Farrow?
of this movie at all, but Peter O'Toole commented.
Peter Cook? Matt Frewer? Oh my god, Max Headroom's in this movie.
Jeez. This movie has crazy star power.
What the hell? That's insane.
Wow.
Waboo wee woo. And I hear it's really, 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 really bad.
Aww.
Like, I saw a Cinema Snob review of this movie.
The star power sounds really cool, though.
I mean, yeah, but, like, that doesn't always make a movie good.
Fair enough, yeah.
You know, it's just, it looks really low budget, and I don't think they had their best foot forward when they tried to make it. But moving, if you thought that was a little disappointing, hold on to your butts, because next up is none other than the infamous, the radioactive dumpster fire. That is Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
This is the one where Nuclear Man is the villain, right?
Destroy Superman!
I've seen clips of this too.
Oh, God.
God, I really gotta get more into Superman movies, but
Why?
this is the fourth, because apparently, like, I'm very curious, just like, you know, what we talked about with Marvel, with Hulk and the Fantastic Four, he seems cursed. Like, why? How hard is it to make a movie about one of the most generic-sounding superheroes ever in existence? Superman.
Well, I mean, the first two are pretty good from what
Oh, yeah,
I've heard.
Superman.
I don't like them, but, I mean, a lot of people would say they're pretty good superhero movies.
Yeah. But
Everyone is like at the top of their game with those.
yeah, well, like, I just know that, like, Superman has this reputation in the film community.
Well, I mean, even as a character, Superman is kind of like just seen as he can do anything, and his only weakness is a goddamn rock.
Okay.
So what can you do with that, really?
Yeah.
There's only so many avenues.
But I've looked into, like, the lore of Superman, and his story, like, just how he came to Earth seems really fascinating. But anyway,
it's not like they haven't been trying.
so the next year we're going to is 1989.
Oh,
but before we get to the big cheese, Return of the Swamp Thing. They made a sequel.
I don't care.
Well, who directed Return?
Probably not Wes Craven.
Let's see.
Probably Jim Wynorski.
Jim Wynorski.
Jim Wynorski.
Yeah. The poster of this looks
Kind of
like
looks like the Hulk.
he looks like the Hulk. Yeah.
Carrying off some babe.
Yeah.
All right. It made peanuts in the box office.
Oh, but then
And Heather Locklear.
Heather Locklear, yeah, as Anton Arcane and Abby Arcane are apparently the two leads.
Whatever.
But that was just setting the stage.
We don't care about that. Now we
That
got
was-
something else that's way better.
This movie cleaned house, and you probably know it. Hey, Michael, Daniel. I'm sorry. Danny Elfman broke into our apartment just now.
That was nice of him to.
Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah.
What's this? There's wet stuff in the air. What's this?
That's not. That has nothing to do with DC. Let's
Yeah,
talk
but it
about
has something to do with Danny Elfman.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that was a great one. Let's talk about Batman. This broke grounds in terms of like how to make a good superhero film, because I think this might actually be like, unless you count Superman the movie, this might be like the first superhero film in either Marvel's library or DC's library where people just went gaga for. The hype was... I wasn't there for it. Like, this was 2 years before I was born. Or 3 years, sorry. But,
Yeah.
I've looked at all the film history around it. There was a petition to stop Michael Keaton from playing Batman, and there was no internet back then. So, it was all because of Mr. Mom.
We don't want Mr. Mom wearing a
Is Mr. Mom...
bat thong.
Is Mr. Mom even a bad movie?
I've seen it. I mean, it's just a comedy. That's the thing. He was known for comedies at the time, and they didn't think he'd be a good fit.
And that's so hilarious, considering like how people, like, of all the Batmen we've seen over the years, people like Michael Keaton is like the one guy that people will actually look at and say, oh, I feel like this guy really is Batman, like, just with how he embodied the character.
I mean, that's pretty typical for most DC fans. They see an actor, they're like, I don't think he's a good fit. If I was a casting director, I would not cast him. I would cast someone else. And then
I think this is what. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
and then as soon as they're done, and as soon as they see the movie, it's like, wow, here's the best choice ever.
Wow. You're saying, Michael?
I think that's really one of the strengths of this movie is that there have been so many Batman movies since it, and it just like endures as like one of the better ones, one of the kind of better efforts.
It really has held up quite nicely.
Yeah.
I actually saw this movie like quite recently, like this summer, and I was kind of reading the IMDb trivia as I was going, and I kind of heard that apparently Michael Keaton kind of like argued to have Bruce Wayne be kind of more of an everyman. Like in a lot of the other Batman movies, he's like a very slick like billionaire, but in this one he's kind of like a bit more accessible, and he's kind of dorky, which in the context of the year 2020, like the billionaires are the Zuckerbergs and the Bill Gateses of the world and stuff. So it's like it kind of makes perfect sense that he's like a little introverted and kind of awkward.
Yeah.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Yeah.
And speaking of nuts,
yeah.
Holy shit! Can we talk about Jack Nicholson's Joker?
So after Cesar Romero, this was the second iteration of the Joker. There's
more popular ones.
There is a gigantic debate, which we're going to have to get in on by virtue of doing this episode, as to who the best Joker was. But for now, let's just talk about Nicholson.
I think the thing is, when I see Jack Nicholson's Joker, I do see Jack Nicholson playing Joker.
No, I see Jack Nicholson playing Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I can definitely see Jack Nicholson's flavor all over it. And
by the
that's
way,
fine. He's great.
Is it an actor trademark of Jack to play characters named Jack? Because this is the Jack Torrance, Jack Napier, who then becomes the Joker. Like, I don't know. Like, I think he was perfect for the time. Like, in terms of how he can go, like, so deep into a character with mental anomalies up the wazoo.
Well, he just has that crazy look in his eyes. You
know
see it all over his eyebrows, too.
Do you know what one of my favorite lines in the whole movie is? There's a scene where he captures the love interest played by Kim Basinger, and she asks him, "What do you want?" Just very matter-of-factly, and then he thinks it over for a second, licks his lips, and says, "My face on the $1 bill."
There's a lot of good lines. Another favorite line of mine is like he's just standing there in his office and he's like, "This town needs an enema," and he grabs like a party favor or something? I forget. It's like, I forget the name of those things, but he just blows it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wait till you get a load of me.
One of the most fascinating scenes in this movie for me is when Batman is in the Nightwing. It's called the Nightwing in this movie, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, the Bat Plane, whatever the hell it's called. Batman has the Bat Gadgets change title from movie to movie and from universe to universe.
So what scene do you like, Evan?
It's the scene where he's in the Bat Plane and he's flying down over Gotham and he's trying to shoot the Joker and he can't lock on target and the Joker just stands there like, "Come at me, bro!" And
he pulls a big motherfucking gun out of his pants. And shoots him down in one hit.
Yeah. Just one last comment about the Joker. This iteration of the Joker feels like a business tycoon who actually craves attention of the public masses. Like, he invents a product and he wants to get people to consume it so that he can control the masses. I think that was very clever.
Was it to control or to simply kill them? Because anyone who uses the product gets like a perma-grin and dies.
Yeah. He just to kill
that Joker.
Yeah. I think it was basically he's chaos incarnate, so he wanted to spread chaos through consumerism.
He didn't really have a plan. He just did whatever he felt like.
Well, we'll hear a more vocal version of that later on.
Yeah.
So the Joker, so it was great. And the movie is great. I really have to rewatch it. The plot is kind of hard to remember for me, but I just remember Batman, the Joker, go at it, and that's really all you need to know.
Yeah.
Now I've seen it a lot, but what I said earlier still stands. Like it just the film's legacy just lasts. It's still such an enjoyable film to this day.
And for a lot of people born in the 90s like us, this was the first superhero movie we ever saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, and home video played a big part of that because home video was a new thing when we were growing up, and we were the first generation to really soak it up. Then there was the year I was born, 92, came the long-awaited sequel, Batman Returns. This movie is depressing as fuck.
I don't really know what to say. I don't know how to feel about it. Because on the one hand, it's very, artistically interesting. It's Tim Burton working at the height of his powers. But on the other hand, I don't enjoy watching it at all.
Yeah. There's a really impeccable horror movie reference because Christopher Walken is in the movie, and he plays a guy named Max Schreck, and Max Schreck is the guy who played the creature in Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty out there reference.
But
I mean, his name literally inspired the name of Shrek, so there you go.
Yeah. Also, I thought the name Shrek came from the Yiddish word which means monster.
Could be not, but I'm pretty sure that name inspired that. But anyways, we're not here to talk about Nosferatu. We're here to talk about Batman Returns.
Danny DeVito as the Penguin, I think, is one of the better villains in the whole Batman library that no one talks about.
He's different. He's out there.
Yeah.
Kind of gross, kind of unpleasant, but sympathetic nonetheless. And I think I couldn't think of another person other than Danny DeVito playing that type of character.
Now, this, by the way, my mom likes to tell me a story. Batman Returns was the first movie she saw as a new mother after she had me, and it came out in around Christmas time of that year. And that was how I learned that when a woman, goes through the birthing process and after being pregnant and just is becoming a new mother, your body, the woman's body reinvents itself inside out, and her brains are affected by different types of hormones. But my mom goes to see Batman Returns by herself,
no.
and the opening scene of that movie has her sobbing, and she was telling me I was crying so loudly that I almost had to leave the theater. It's how could they do that to a baby?
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
It's a very sad opening scene too.
Yeah,
and
even with Pee Wee Herman as Penguin's father, it's still pretty sad.
Yeah.
Now, Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman.
Do you like cats?
No, but I like Catwoman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people say Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman is the best version of that character, and I like her, but I feel like she's a little too nuts for me.
Oh yeah, too crazy.
Kind of crazy. I don't buy that she has 9 lives or something. She can get killed 9 times and still keep walking.
Well, you have to remember,
and the whole scene where she dies, comes back to life by being licked by cats
and chewed on by cats.
Goes into her apartment and literally just rips the place apart. That scene was nuts.
Like a real cat would do.
And then comes out making her own costume, and it looks all stitched and fucked up.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I just feel about this Catwoman. She's all stitched up and fucked up, and I don't know.
Well, it looks like she was ripped apart and then sewn back together. I think that's what Tim Burton was going for.
Probably, yeah.
And the thing you need to know about this movie compared to its predecessor is
Batman's barely in it.
That's also true. And also, in the first Batman, Warner Brothers had a lot of creative say in, and they worked very closely with Tim Burton as to what kind of a movie they wanted him to make for them. But after the success of Batman, they said, let's take a creative risk. Let's give Tim Burton full creative control over everything. And the result is a bunch of nightmare fuel.
It's kind of just too eerie.
The first Batman is pretty eccentric, but this one leans a lot further into the kind of gothic horror thing that Tim Burton does.
Yeah.
It looks nice.
It also, like Lyle kind of alluded to when he talks about the Penguin, it's very violent. It was so violent, in fact, that McDonald's was going to do a Happy Meal tie-in with toys for the movie, but once they saw the finished product, they canceled the tie-in because of the violence.
Well, no shit. When I saw this as a kid, the scene where Penguin bites a guy's nose off, almost completely unprovoked, that just, I kind of got scarred from that.
It comes out of nowhere too.
Yeah, it's gruesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But I think we talked enough about it.
The doom and gloom is going to turn into like bright lights and color.
And hit or miss comedy.
Joel Schumacher, the late Joel Schumacher, may he rest in peace. He was given the control of and the director's share of the next Batman movie,
which came out the year I was born.
95.
How weird is that? You were born in Returns, and I was born forever.
Wow. So Batman Forever has an A-list cast. They really milked the star power for this movie.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton is gone, by the way.
Yeah.
They get a big stud to play Batman, Val Kilmer.
The Iceman.
Iceman, yeah. You're brushing up on your Top Gun knowledge. Very nice.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah. They got Val Kilmer. They got Tommy Lee Jones. They got Nicole Kidman to play. I don't even remember her very well in that movie. And then Chris O'Donnell. But I think the biggest one was easily Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
Yeah, that's what we mean.
Yeah.
Here's how I feel about the villain duology in this movie. Jim Carrey is perfect as the Riddler. Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face is all wrong. Like I don't think of goofball when I think of Tommy Lee Jones.
Well, that's not his fault. He's just a terribly written character.
Is it? Tommy and Two-Face isn't a goofball. Two-Face is
he's a tragic figure.
Yeah, he's a physically and mentally tortured man who has no concept of justice.
He has no free will. Everything he does is judged by a coin.
Yeah. They would make up for that about 10 years later.
Yeah,
we'll get to that later.
Batman Forever, the only thing I remember is Riddler.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else. I've seen it a dozen times, but it never sticks in my head.
And also, Jim Carrey has the same issue with Jack Nicholson, where you can't really separate the actor from the character. You're literally watching an actor be what he usually is when he's on the screen. Because at the time, Jim Carrey had just finished Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, yeah. 1994 was a huge year for Jim Carrey.
So,
he had like 3 major hits under his belt.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard this story, but apparently in 94, when they were like preparing to cast and work on this movie or whatever, Jim Carrey met Tommy Lee Jones in a restaurant, and he said, like, I'm really excited to work with you. And Tommy Lee Jones said something to him along the lines of, like, I don't like your work. I think you're a total buffoon. And he was just like a massive dick to him. And apparently that feeling kind of persisted on the set. I would think that would be a weird thing to say to someone you're like preparing to work months on end with.
Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones has that look on his face that he thinks everyone is a buffoon. And he doesn't like anyone.
Well, Tommy Lee Jones just looks like he has this
looks so grumpy.
He has this perpetual look of like, I am sick to death of everyone's shit. Can I just get my check and go home now?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to name names, but I actually know someone who said to me that, like an industry person who said to me that they are the rudest person he's ever. Tommy Lee Jones is the rudest person they've ever met.
Oh wow!
Oh, for real.
That kind of bums me out because he's a talented actor.
Oh yeah, he is.
I mean, he's also an old grumpy guy, so I can kind of see it.
It's worth mentioning that this applies to a lot of actors who were in both Marvel and DC films. He would later be the Colonel in Captain America: The First Avenger. And
that's true.
We also forgot to mention this, but Michael Keaton would later go on to be the Vulture in Spider-Man: Homecoming. So it kind of all is interconnected.
Yeah. I'm looking at the. I haven't seen this movie in years. I'm looking at the cast list right now, and apparently Jon Favreau was in it too.
Oh, he was?
I completely forgot he was there.
Who was he?
He's just listed at the very bottom of the cast list as assistant, and I don't have any memory of that.
Was this before or after Swingers? Because Jon
It would have been the year before.
Yeah, didn't Swingers come out in 96?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, so he's like a little guy.
Yeah,
just starting out.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say about Batman Forever. How do you guys feel about Val Kilmer as Batman?
I think he's a good Bruce Wayne, but he's not a good Batman. Like, he looks the part of Bruce Wayne, but as Batman, I think he's just not acted well. The script wasn't as powerful as it could have been. But Michael, it's interesting you tell me that story about how Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones kind of had awkward chemistry. I feel like if Two-Face was written as a serious character and who had to get paired up with a clown, I feel like that could have been a really interesting dynamic.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Sure. But
one thing that I was going to maybe save this for Batman and Robin, but maybe we'll touch on it again.
Well,
but
it's coming soon.
One thing that's kind of weird about the 80s, 90s Batman movies is for like people may forget this in the age of reboots or cinematic universes or whatever, but like we are supposed to believe that this is all the same continuity.
No.
It's like the same Batman.
Well,
even though he's portrayed by 3 different men.
I agree with that because they did get one man to tie it all together that we have completely neglected to mention.
Michael Gough.
Yeah.
Michael Gough as Alfred.
Oh, he was so good as Alfred.
And didn't they get the same actor to play
Alfred.
Gordon in the 4 movies too?
Oh yeah, I always forget about Gordon in these movies. Hell, I forgot that Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams in the first one.
But in the first one, he's the newly elected DA and he's not Two-Face yet.
Can you imagine Billy D. Williams as Two-Face in Batman Forever?
That would have been bizarre.
Yeah.
Just
he
him
did
being
he did get a shot at it, not on live action, but they did actually bring Billy D. Williams back for the Lego Batman.
Oh yeah, the Lego Batman movie. I remember that. That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like something that's like always kind of been a little bit strange. Is that the movies? There's 4 movies featuring 3 different actors as Batman, and they vary wildly differently in tone.
Yeah,
they do.
But it's all supposedly the same story. So that's,
well, I guess
take that if you will.
Despite being called Batman Forever, eventually it had to end sometime with a very, very sour note in the DC lineup. And that movie is none other than Batman and Robin.
We already talked about this in our bad movies episode.
I have something to say about these titles, man. Okay, so in Batman Forever they established Robin. And why... I think they should have switched the titles. I think the third one should have been called Batman and Robin, because it's all about Batman and Robin. And since it's the 4th installment, they should have went with Batman Forever. They missed an opportunity here.
Yeah.
That's been dogging me for years.
But
it's like,
can you imagine if they switched the titles? We would have a cringe shoot up our spine every time we hear the words Batman Forever. People already cringe when they think of Batman Forever. It hasn't aged for a lot of people. It hasn't aged very well.
Some people like it. Most people don't. I don't know.
I think it's a lot of fun.
I don't really care about it. So whatever.
All I remember is that Seal Did Seal make the song "Kiss from a Rose" specifically for that movie?
I don't know. I know U2 made a song for the movie.
Yes, "Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me."
Yeah,
that's a great song.
That's a pretty good song, actually.
Yeah. I remember that being in the credits, and that was a rocking good tune.
Yeah, but Batman and Robin.
Let's talk. We didn't go into detail about it. We only talked about the production in our other podcast episode. Yeah. We talked about how the whole cast and crew thought it was a joke. Like, they thought it was just a big toy commercial, and no one really took it seriously. They just had as much fun with it as they can, but we didn't really talk about the movie itself. What's it about? Well,
it's about a lot of things.
The plot is actually surprisingly cluttered. Like, you have 2 villains.
Actually, 3 villains.
Oh, right!
Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and a really shitty Bane.
Oh, yeah, Bane is Bane is a henchman for Poison Ivy.
Yeah, he's a bastardized Bane.
So...
And Mr. Freeze wants to gather diamonds to bring his loved one back from cryogenic freeze.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about an elephant in the room.
George Clooney.
No, I'm talking about Mr. Freeze. We'll get to George. Well, George Clooney is Batman. I think he's the worst Batman that's ever been cast.
Well, Evan, it's not. You know how you say Jack Nicholson is playing Jack Nicholson, and Jim Carrey is playing Jim Carrey. George Clooney is literally just George Clooney.
He doesn't try.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman. And
this is why Superman works alone.
I want a car. Chicks take the car. Oh, God.
Oh, Robin.
You're
so fucking
It actually kind of segues into... The point I was trying to make was about Freeze, and we kind of solidified it with...
What about Freeze?
The dialogue in this movie is a joke.
Oh,
just one joke after the other. And Mr. Freeze gets the coldest end of the stick. And I'm so sorry, audience, for that pun. But Mr. Freeze, I'm gonna just name one of my favorite quotes from his in the movie. Let's kick some ice.
Stay cool, bird boy.
What killed the dinosaurs?
The Ice Age!
Actually, a meteor killed the dinosaurs.
Allow me to break the ice.
There are only like 2 lines in the whole movie where he doesn't use an ice pun, and it's a breath of fucking fresh air when it happens. I'm serious. Like, I just remember there was a couple lines where he doesn't use ice puns. I'm like, did that really happen? Yeah, but the actor who played him is actually quite a jolly fellow, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Could you have seen anyone else as Mr. Freeze at the time?
I mean, not really, to be honest. You know what? Even though Batman Robin is a terrible movie, it's terribly enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I have fun with it. I can't help myself. I can have fun.
I will watch that any day of the week because I have such a fun time laughing at it.
And Michael, remember how you were talking about how the shark repellent might be the funniest, most cheesiest camp material in one of these movies? Well, This movie gives you a big one-up with that because we've got the Bat credit card.
Yeah.
The Bat credit card. Never leave home without it.
No, never leave the cave without it.
Never leave the cave without it. That's it.
I lost my shit when I saw the Bat credit card. Because I used to be a big fan of the Nostalgia Critic. I remember
He made a pretty big stink about that Bat credit card.
Okay, he represents the cluster of fans that were going into this movie looking for like something epic, but they got a self-parody. They got a Batman movie that was a spoof of Batman, and that's why it gets so much hate. But
it's pretty try hard. I feel like a lot of the humor in the movie does not work simply because there are too many attempts at it.
Yeah.
And they're throwing. We're gonna get back to this with another Batman movie in a couple decades, but they throw so much at the wall. They literally have a character who just spouts puns.
Yeah.
And it's like it's too aggressive an attempt at comedic relief to the point where like none of it is comedic relief. Like none of it's funny.
Well, yeah,
it's really weird.
It's pretty goddamn silly.
Yeah. Uma Thurman plays Poison Ivy, and this is, I think, the worst movie I've ever seen Uma Thurman in, and Uma Thurman's done some shit.
Yeah, this movie really hurt her career, sadly.
Well, it got her a role in My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who has seen that here?
Nope.
Am I the only one?
Seen it.
I think I'm the only one who's seen My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
How good is My Super Ex-Girlfriend?
It's not great. It's a cheese fest, just like this movie. Anna Faris is also in it, and Eddie Izzard is kind of.
Well, I was just wondering what it was like, but yeah. Okay, so
it's the whole premise of that comedy.
Can I skip it and miss nothing?
Yeah, you could. The whole premise of My Super Ex-Girlfriend is what happens if you date a girl who is a superhero and then she turns out to be a total crazy psycho when you dump her.
So the title speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Great, I've seen the movie. Thanks.
Pretty much. DC would actually go into a rut.
No. There was one more.
Sorry.
There was another epic fail that came out in 1997 that most people would just rather soon forget. Mm-hmm. And that movie is none other than Shaquille O'Neal's Steel.
What is Steel?
It is a guy who wears steel and fights crime.
But not the Man of Steel.
Not the Man of Steel, the man made of steel. Or outfit made of steel.
Perfectly not confusing.
Yes. Steel is an awkward-ass movie. Every time he moves in his outfit, I'm just like, how on earth can you fight crime in that thing? How on earth can you look cool in an outfit like that? There's one scene where he shoots a grappling hook to get out of the scene, and like, it's so slow and clunky. There's another scene where he fights a group of villains, like, alright, citizens, Steel is here. And then he's like on an escalator, and he stands on it, and it picks him up and takes him to the next floor.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they thought in their heads that would look so cool. Yeah. But I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, Steel's... I can have fun with Steel. Same with Batman and Robin. Like, it's kind of a laughably bad movie.
Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal is just, like, so bad.
And Shaquille O'Neal got some really cheese fest roles in the 90s outside of Steel, because he was also in Good Burger and that Basketball Genie. Kazam. Yeah.
Where he raps every line he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after 97, DC movies would go into a rut. Like,
pretty much.
Marvel took the box office for a very long time. But after the same year that Spider-Man 2 came out, DC tried and failed to make a comeback. And the Avenger, if you will, who tried and failed to bring the studio back to its game, was a Batman character played by Halle Berry. And I have not seen this movie, so I can't really bash it with you guys. I'm sorry. Lyle,
I fucking love Catwoman, and I didn't see this.
And you love Halle Berry.
I really love Halle Berry too.
Oh God,
that says a lot.
So we can't even say shit about this because
I've seen clips.
Oh,
this movie is like, it's on meth. It's gone past crack. To the point where it no longer feels the effect of crack, and it goes straight into crystal meth territory. The editing is all over the place. The cinematography is all over the place. The special effects are horrendously all over the place. Nothing feels like gripped in any sort of reality. Every action scene is a mess. And like much like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Freeze, Halle Berry's Catwoman is all puns. It's what a perfect crime. Or something like that, and she's like addicted to kitty litter, or not kitty. So
are you talking
catnip?
Are you sure we're talking about Catwoman, or are we describing the plot of that Cat's movie?
I meant to say catnip, not kitty litter. She's not snorting kitty litter. That's disgusting.
God.
But like, yeah, it's just it has nothing to do with the character of Catwoman. It's not even Selena
Even
Kyle.
the Wikipedia list that we're reading off of says it's not directly based on the character of the same name.
Yeah, there's no reference to Batman. I don't even know if it takes place in Gotham City.
It's a whatever. It feels I feel bad that we even have to rant about it, because like we haven't even seen this, and already like what we're seeing is not good.
Even worth mentioning.
And
what's interesting about this, which doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the film itself, but she starred in this movie while still portraying a Marvel character. This is between two X-Men movies.
Oh yeah, she was doing Storm at the time.
She's Storm as well.
Man, Halle Berry was all over the place in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
She was, yeah.
I wonder why she stopped making movies for a while.
Yeah. For some, now...
She never got her groove back.
But 2005 would set DC on a bit of
a fresh redirection.
Well, yeah.
Although I don't know so much about this other movie, but yeah, one of them did.
Apparently,
has anyone seen Constantine?
And apparently, the only reason it makes this list is because it's loosely based on the Hellblazer comics.
Yeah, I have seen this Constantine movie. I am not familiar with any source material it may or may not be based off of.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves fights demons.
It's pretty out there.
That's
but
all
it's,
you need to know.
Fun. Yeah.
I saw it on TV when I was on a school trip, and like we were just laughing at it so bad.
Is it a cheese fest?
Oh God, it's so dated now. It almost reminds me of Spawn. Have you guys ever seen Spawn?
Yeah.
Like
I only saw this like somewhat recently, like maybe within the last couple of years. Like I definitely never saw it when it came out, but I feel like I maybe saw it like 3 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And within the context of like the late 2010s or whatever, I did not know that Shia LaBeouf was in it, and then he showed up.
What?
And I was
he is in
what?
it. He's his partner.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
And that thoroughly distracted me, but it was weird.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I didn't see the whole thing. The last thing I'll say is there's one scene where like they get dragged into they get dragged straight into hell, and the CGI is so fucking bad, and a CGI demon just comes right at the screen and goes whoopity boo, and the person I was watching this with turned to me and said, "Was this supposed to be scary?"
Yeah.
because I am dying here laughing. Yeah, no, there's not much to say about Constantine. I don't think it holds up that well.
Well, then just to give some context for what our next movie on their list is in 2005. I said 2005, so you already know where we're going. But in the late 90s, Joel Schumacher was supposed to get a third Batman movie, and he was supposed to have a trilogy. His third movie would have been called Batman Triumphant, but after Batman and Robin was a financial and critical disappointment, the studio canceled it, and all Batman-related projects were put on a good long hiatus until a filmmaker named Christopher Nolan came along. And at the time, Chris Nolan was famous for Memento.
Memento was his big claim to fame, yeah.
He came along and helmed Batman Begins. I wasn't really into Batman. This was in the theaters, but that summer it came out. The two movies that were most talked about amongst my friends were Revenge of the Sith, which I saw, and Batman Begins. I saw Batman Begins years later because The Dark Knight looked interesting and I wanted to prepare for it.
Yeah.
So, I really actually like this Batman movie. People like to say that it's probably does the most justice to the origin story of Batman in terms of, but what made this movie work that the other Batman movies didn't have was it had quasi-realism. Like
it was gritty.
Yeah, the other Batman movies were gritty, but there was something about this Batman movie.
I'd say the other Batman movies were stylistic.
Oh yeah.
Tim Burton was very German expressionist, and Schumacher was very, very
neon,
very embellished.
Yeah.
This one was probably the most gritty one that we had. It was set in a world where I don't think. It was funny when I first saw this movie. I'm like, "There's no way Clayface exists in this world."
Well, in this movie,
or Mr. Freeze.
This movie was shot in
Poison Ivy.
This movie was shot in Chicago, Illinois, and it looks like a great city. Like when I see Gotham, and as Chicago, I feel like they're kind of one and the same. And so the plot of this movie is basically the first half of it is Bruce Wayne, played by Christian Bale, and he...
Not my favorite Batman, if I'm being
Not
honest.
your favorite? Okay.
Oh, okay, not my favorite Bruce Wayne. Maybe maybe higher up as a Batman, but not my favorite Bruce Wayne.
I would agree. As Bruce Wayne, he's kind of a sad stick in the mud, but they wanted to overemphasize how traumatized his parents' murder was.
I always forget he's there. He blends in.
Can you just repeat that again?
I never feel much for Bruce Wayne. I always feel like he's just there, and then as soon as Batman comes in, it's like, oh hey, there's the character I care about.
Well, basically the first half of the movie is all flashbacks as to what happened when his parents died, what happened to him when he tried to go murder Joe Chill, and in this version of the story, Joe Chill killed his parents. And in the previous Batman universe, the Joker killed his parents.
Well, Joe Chill was from the comics.
Yeah.
He's the one who officially killed his parents.
And I would say that there's actually... People like to think there's two villains in this movie, but there's actually three. There is Carmine Falcone, there's Ra's al Ghul, and there's Scarecrow. Scarecrow is the most interesting out of all of them, but he has the least to do, which is a huge disappointment.
He doesn't end on a very strong note either.
And he's played by an amazing actor.
Cillian Murphy is so good.
Yeah.
I'm glad he was back for all the other sequels.
I was sold on it quickly when I saw it as a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
I just remember always thinking that it was super cool, and I was already approaching it with an appreciation of Batman as a character, but I thought it was quite the experience.
Now, the actor who played Ra's al Ghul was Liam Neeson, and what's interesting?
What's interesting, Evan?
This is the second Liam Neeson character that dies that I can think of. Because Liam Neeson, after the movie Taken, he became such this badass action star, but two of his characters died. Qui-Gon Jinn dies in The Phantom Menace, and Ra's al Ghul dies, but he's not killed by Batman.
He dies in the first 10 minutes of Gangs of New York.
Oh, so then that's 3 movies. Why does he get? What did Taken do that made him such a
Made
badass?
him a badass.
Yeah.
Untouchable.
Yeah.
He had a specific set of skills.
Yes. Well, we're getting ahead of our.
Yeah.
Taken wouldn't be.
Focusing on Batman Begins.
Yeah.
What else can we say about it?
It's actually very long. Like it's 2.5 hours, and this would actually be a staple for the Nolan trilogy because all these Batman movies would be very long.
I don't know. I think the only thing I complain about this movie is I don't like the action very much.
It's horribly shot.
Just the combat scenes. They're very, very scattered and not all that clean. We're not getting like Raid Redemption levels of Batman fighting here.
Yeah.
Which is too bad.
Also, his love interest was Rachel Dawes, played by Katie Holmes.
Yeah, Katie Holmes.
Who did not come back for the sequel.
You wanna know why?
Because she did a movie with Queen Latifah, and she...
Mad Money.
Mad Money, that's
she
what it
picked
was.
Mad Money over The Dark Knight. I probably wants to go back in time and maybe change your mind on that one.
Well, I hope it wasn't like a Natalie Portman situation where she just didn't like the comic book movie, like notes on her resume, and she was just like, okay, I want to try something else.
Well,
is Mad Money a good movie?
Well, nobody talks about it, so I'm gonna assume it's a forgettable, like whatever kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
This is like Katie at the very height of her career, though. This is like Tom Cruise, Katie Holmes.
Oh god.
He would jump on a couch for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he would do for Katie Holmes. That's how in love with her he proclaimed that he was.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I don't have much else to say about Batman Begins. It's pretty good.
It's good.
But it's not my favorite.
Yeah. The next movie, before we get to the big cheese, is actually a kind of a dud. I still need to watch it, but I'm very curious for it. Superman Returns.
I've never seen that either.
Now,
says a lot
I have not
because I
seen
would have
it
been
either.
watching a lot of stuff like that around that time.
I deliberately skipped this film because I was so sick of Superman.
I can't
Although,
say
to be fair, the last couple of DC movies we've been picking out here have all been Batman related for the most part.
Yeah, Batman carried this series for like 15 years.
Yeah, like they never attempted anything else. They never attempted Wonder Woman.
Steel and Catwoman were the only other things.
Well, Catwoman's a Batman character, though.
Oh, yeah. So
you're thinking Constantine is not a Batman character, but still. What I'm saying is, like, we haven't gotten another Superman movie since now. We haven't even attempted anything else from the Justice League.
They
I find that
like
very interesting.
They waited like 20 years to make another Superman movie. And what's kind of, I've heard that Superman Returns suffers from a similar problem as the Incredible Hulk, where they weren't sure if it's a follow-up to a previously done Superman movie. It's technically the 5th one because it's called Superman Returns after he goes away in the 4th movie, and then Lex Luthor comes back, and they cast actors that look very, very similar physically to the characters who were previously established. Like, Kevin Spacey looks almost identical to Gene Hackman.
Yeah, they do look similar.
Brandon Routh looks almost identical to Christopher Reeves. And Kate Bosworth looks very much like Margot Kidder. And it's also interesting to mention that Christopher Reeve actually died 2 years before this movie came out. And I was in elementary school when the news came in, and that was a sad day. Like, people... we lost Superman. It was sad. But then again, he also was a horseback rider, and he had suffered from paralysis after an accident. Yeah. So his health he died of heart failure, and his health wasn't in good shape.
Yeah, it was too bad.
Yeah.
Bryan Singer directed this one. I'm surprised you didn't go when you said Kevin Spacey's name, Evan. But anyways.
I forgot. Oh, goddamn.
What?
But
Superman Returns was like Bryan Singer's like departure from the X-Men series, because this came out the same year as X-Men 3.
Yeah.
And even James Marsden, who played Cyclops in the X-Men series, was in this movie as Jimmy Olsen, I want to say. Was he? I don't know. I haven't seen it. I just know he plays a character.
Yeah.
I'm going to look this up quickly. I can't say if it was successful or not.
It was a modest. It actually was a failure because
it had a budget of $223 million, and it made back $391.1 million.
That's break even.
I don't know, man, because you gotta think marketing.
The marketing.
You gotta go 1.5 over.
The marketing was kind of
double and a half. That's how
it was a bomb.
Yeah. Not that good. James Marsden plays a character named Richard White.
Oh, okay.
Who the fuck? All right, whatever.
Apparently the plot. I haven't heard.
Really?
Yeah, Michael.
Is Richard White supposed to be related to Perry White?
Yeah, it says he's his nephew or something.
Oh, okay.
All right, cool, dude.
The only other interesting thing to say about this is Brandon Routh would later come back with Captain Marvel in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
He was also the Atom in the Arrowverse.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he came back.
So he got his fill of comic book fun. Not too much more. I haven't seen it, but I've heard the plot is bonkers. Like, by 2006 superhero movie standards, the plot of Superman Returns is apparently bonkers.
Alright, well, I haven't seen it. I have no interest in seeing it.
I'm curious. I want to see it just out of curiosity's sake.
It just looks so dull to me.
Yeah. But the good news is the next two, what we're going to talk about, are films that I consider masterpieces.
Yes.
The big cheese of DC, and at this time, in 2008, it was the most profitable comic book movie ever made. The Dark Knight, a.k.a. The Joker's...
The Joker movie.
The Joker movie before the Joker movie. Because very similar to Thanos 10 years before, the Joker makes this his movie.
And very similar to Michael Keaton, no one had any faith on the planet that Heath Ledger would be a decent Joker. They all wrote letters. It's like, we don't want that pretty boy to be to be in this.
The two biggest movies Heath Ledger was known for at this time were A Knight's Tale and Brokeback Mountain, which was
and 10 Things I Hate About You.
10 Things I Hate About You was his breakout role.
Yeah.
But what's really funny about that is,
man, when I rewatched that movie, when I watched it for the first time, I was like, man, I don't see Joker at all in this guy.
Yeah.
It's more like when he's walking around in full, like just walking around the high school. I'm like, I don't see Joker. That's so.
But
crazy.
He ran into
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in that movie.
He runs into Blake. That's hilarious.
That's wild. Yeah. But anyways, back to Dark Knight. What makes this movie so damn good, guys?
Well, remember
Break
how...
it down for me.
Michael, help me out here. Remember how you said you had that friend who saw Captain America Winter Soldier and your friend was traditionally hated comic book movies?
Yeah.
But he liked Winter Soldier because it didn't feel like a comic book movie. The Dark Knight doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It feels like a crime drama.
No,
I'd say at its core, it really is a crime drama, and
it transcends the elements of a typical comic book story. Yeah.
And I don't mean to sound like a cynic, but do you think the fact that Heath Ledger died gave this movie like an extra buzz? I mean, it was going to be popular either way, but
it did add a tinge of tragedy to the entire film.
It really did, and
the other Batman movie has a tinge of tragedy to it as well. We'll get into that later.
I was in high school when when this movie was coming out. Well, it came out in the summer, but when we were prepping for it and hearing all the promotional material, and I was in high school when Heath Ledger died. So I remember there was a he died because he supposedly overdosed. And there was a mental health conversation, and there were rumors going around that he got so deep into the Joker character that that's how he got consumed, and that's what sadly was his downfall.
No, he got really eaten up in the role, sadly. And what's weird is that Jack Nicholson, going back to him, was interviewed after he died, and he's like, "Well, we know you had conversations with him as he was getting prepped for the role, and how do you feel about his death?" And he's like, "I warned him. I did indeed warn him."
Right.
Because I think he felt that you could get very easily wrapped up into a character like the Joker.
Yeah.
I'll tell
It's
you
just
my.
eerie.
If you guys have a sec, I'll just tell you my anecdote about seeing The Dark Knight.
Oh, go
for the
ahead,
first
yeah.
time.
All right.
Because this is truly a kind of special and fun film viewing experience. So, the movie came out in the summer of 2008, and I did not see it right away. I really liked Batman Begins, but like one thing or another, like it was always sold out, and I was like working a part-time job the summer between high school or like whatever, and I think we had gone on a vacation that year, or like for whatever reason, I did not see The Dark Knight for like, relatively speaking, a really long time. We went
Wow.
we went back to school, and when I say relatively speaking, it wasn't that long, but yeah, it was. This is how it went. We went back to school in September. Everyone had seen this movie. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone knew that I was like a movie guy, and they were like gobsmacked that I hadn't seen this movie by the time Labor Day rolled around.
Wow.
Jeez.
So I was like, and I literally spent like maybe a week or two, like, you know what, you get in that weird headspace sometimes where like a friend tells you to see something, you haven't seen it yet, you're like almost apologetic, you're like, I know, I'll get to it. So I really wanted to see this movie, and then just like on a random Sunday, it finally lined up where I was able to.
Yeah.
The neighborhood I grew up in, there was literally two movie theaters like right next to each other. One would show a movie for like 6-8 weeks, and then literally everything's digital now, but back then, like, they would literally just transport the physical reel across the street and start playing it at the other movie theater, the second run movie theater. And I walk into this Canada Square, it's called. I walk into the cinema, and it is empty. I'm the only person there, and I was like, wow, I'm really the last person on the earth to see this movie.
That's a trip.
Naturally, I loved it. It was really cool to watch it by myself in that theater and just kind of have the experience entirely to myself. But I would say that The Dark Knight is probably the movie that I own that I have like sought out the most on the big screen, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
anytime it's playing on a big screen, despite owning it or it now being on Netflix or whatever, like, it is truly a big screen experience.
Yeah.
So I've sought it out like repeatedly in like IMAX and like special screenings and anniversary screenings. Like I saw that movie that one particular time in cinemas, and I've probably seen it like half a dozen times in cinemas since then.
I remember when I saw The Dark Knight, I went with my parents, and I don't remember the plot. I didn't remember the plot when I came out of the theater. All I remembered was what Batman and the Joker were there, and they were going at it. I didn't understand.
That's the exact same thing you said about Batman '89.
I mean, that was, but I know it's kind of an odd coincidence, but there was one scene that always stayed with me, and that was the ferry scene where the Joker holds two ferries hostage. One has civilians on it, the other has criminals. And
for a second there, I thought you said Joker was holding two ferries hostages.
Two
ferries. Yeah, they're carrying prisoners and civilians.
Yeah. So, and he rigs them both with explosives, and he gives each boat the detonator to the other boat's explosives, and then he says, "At midnight, I blow you both up. However, if one boat presses the button, I'll let that boat live. So who's it gonna be? Harvey Dent's most wanted scumbag collection, or the sweet and innocent civilians? You choose." Oh, and you might want to decide quickly, because the people on the other boat may not be quite so noble. And I just remember, like, the psychological reaction of the people on the boat is truly fascinating to watch. They get to a point where the majority of them vote to blow up the convict boat, but no one, despite the horror of the situation they're in, no one can bring themselves to kill people they don't know.
Yeah.
And not even the prisoners. Like, the prisoners initially all plead with the guards, say, "Blow it up! Press the button! Do it quickly! They're gonna kill us!" And then this one guy who was actually in that Friday movie with
he was also
Ice Cube.
He was also in Austin Powers' Goldmember.
Oh yeah. He marches up to the guard and says, "You don't want to die, but you don't know how to take a life. Give it to me, and I'll do what you should have did 10 minutes ago." Guy chucks the detonator out the window, so essentially no one plays the Joker's game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a powerful message. And when I think about, the shitstorm of societal events in the year 2020, not related to coronavirus specifically, but just to the civil unrest.
There's a lot going on.
I think about the disregard that some people are showing for human life when you look at the murders of George Floyd or Breonna Taylor. There's a blatant disregard for human life, and it's for some reason it takes me back to this scene when the people of a fictional city got up in the face of their own death and said, no, we're not playing this game of taking human life in the other hand and throwing it out the window. So that to me was really fascinating. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the other villain. The Joker kind of overshadows him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Harvey Dent is played by Aaron Eckhart, and his transformation is absolutely tragic. Not going to say too much. I don't want to give too much away about the scene that causes him to be Two-Face, but it's not pretty.
No,
it just ain't.
No, you feel bad for the guy.
Fun fact, do you know what got him the part in this movie as Harvey Dent?
Thank You for Smoking?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe it, because I see a lot of Harvey Dent in that role.
That's exactly what Christopher Nolan and his casting directors felt, and Katie Holmes was in that movie, oddly enough.
Oh, yeah.
She literally fucks him over. So, I feel like if we just talk about The Dark Knight, we'll be here for another hour.
I have a bit of a question. If it wasn't for, and I always think about this because a lot of people love this movie, and a lot of people give so much critical assessment for this movie. But every time I think about this film, I always wonder, if Heath Ledger wasn't in it, would it be the same?
If the Joker wasn't in it, or if another actor played the Joker?
Possibly both. I'm not sure. I feel like I kind of wonder if he's the one force that really elevates this thing above and beyond.
I've always found a parallel between Infinity War and The Dark Knight, because aside from the fact that they came out 10 years apart from each other,
okay,
they both have similar themes. The villain is the main focus of the story, and they stand for opposite messages. The Joker is chaos incarnate, and Thanos is an absolutist when it comes to having order. So much so that he wants to destroy chaos by wiping out half of civilization. The Joker wants to destroy all order, and I think those parallels. And by the way, both the heroes lose in the end.
What's kind of right?
That's a good comparison.
Right off that point is the Joker does not die in this movie, which is intriguing for the villain of a superhero movie, right?
He has the same fate as Jack Nicholson though, where he's hanging precariously over a building.
So it's kind of tragically kind of ironic. I've heard reports that Christopher Nolan actually wanted him to be a bigger part of the series as a whole. He was probably going to come back for another movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in the novelization of The Dark Knight Rises, they just sort of explain it away with one line that he's locked up now. But it's kind of interesting that he was that impactful of a portrayal that I think he could have done a lot more. And obviously we've been robbed of the career Heath Ledger never quite had.
It's sad to think about.
He did earn that Oscar.
He did.
I'll say that.
Yes.
Posthumously or non-posthumously, he earned that Oscar.
He beat Mr. Stark that year because Mr. Stark was up for his role in Tropic Thunder for Best Assistant Actor.
I don't think that's even a contest.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
I just remember I was watching the Oscars that year, and the camera pans to Robert Downey Jr.'s reaction to the announcement that Heath Ledger won. Robert Downey Jr. just had tears in his eyes. He just knew that it was going to Ledger. They all knew because those actors, they rehearsed the Oscars. They know they're not who's going to win and who's not. So they're told, all of them are told to prepare speeches in advance in case they win. So at that point, Robert Downey Jr. just knew that where the award was going, and he was very content about it. And I give him a lot of respect for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we ready to move on?
The next movie I really, really love.
Guys, I gotta ask you something. Who watches The Watchmen?
I do many
I
times.
do many times.
I love this movie.
Hell yeah.
I mean, which is really interesting because this movie got mixed reviews when it came out. The critics...
It wasn't successful either.
Wasn't it a modest hit or something? We're going to look at the
I
box
can look
office
into it, but I don't think it was all that. No, it wasn't.
Ouch.
$138 million budget to a $185 box office.
Yikes.
$185 million box office.
Critics didn't know how to feel about it either. Which is really sad because I remember seeing a trailer for... when I bought my DVD of The Dark Knight, or I got my DVD of The Dark Knight as a Christmas gift,
Yeah.
I remember watching the previews on the DVD and the teaser trailer for Watchmen with that Smashing Pumpkins song, which DC paralleled that song.
That song was in Batman Robin too.
But it was called something different. It was called The End is the Beginning is the end is the beginning is the end. But this version of the song is called The Beginning is the End is the Beginning.
Yeah, it's a different recording, but yeah, it's the same song, which I found funny.
Yeah. So I'll just throw in my 2 cents here.
Yeah.
I did not know a lot about Watchmen.
Me neither.
I wasn't very familiar with the source material, but I finally saw this movie maybe in 2017 or 18, so years after the film was released.
Wow.
And I thought it was pretty fun. It's visually striking and it's very engaging. It's a super long movie. I'm not sure how many cuts of it exist.
There's
or whatever,
3. There's the theatrical cut, the director's cut, and the ultimate cut.
Ultimate cut has the
Tales of the Black Freighter segments.
Well, that would add another 40 minutes to the movie.
Yeah, it does.
Jeez. I've only seen the extended cut.
Yes, approaching it as a Watchmen novice. I thought it was an entertaining film.
Oh man, they do they do so much justice to the graphic novel. It's almost shot for shot in some instances.
Well, I'd be remiss if I did not mention who directed this. Our boy Zack
Snyder.
At the time, he had just come off of 300, so people knew what he was capable of in terms of creating comic book eye candy on the big screen.
Yeah,
because he took Frank Miller's graphic novel and turned it into something visually entertaining. I was talking about this with our friend Cody yesterday actually, and we were talking about 300, and it's 300 is somewhat memorable. People remember it for wonky reasons, but it's not really it's a classic, but not really. It's remembered for one scene, but other than that, there's not much more to say about it.
It's kind of one ear and out the
Watchmen.
other.
I feel like if comic book fans revisit it, they'll really like it, and it's kind of showing because when I talk to people about Watchmen, they really do like it. But at the time, it was sold as the greatest graphic novel of all time. Is now a movie. Go see it. They republished the graphic novel in stores, and my stepdad actually got me into it because he still had his copy of the graphic novel. I remember it. I didn't want to damage it, so I would only read it at home, but whenever I would come home from school and finish my homework, I would spend an hour each night reading Watchmen. It was so intriguing. The graphic novel is very difficult to follow, if I'm being honest, because just like the movie, there's multiple storylines, but once you get to the end, you see how it all comes full circle.
It helps if you read it multiple times.
But what's sad is the audience that sat down in the movie theater didn't understand the story, but I'm if you have to read the graphic novel to understand it, you're missing the point. Because I feel do you guys feel if you hadn't read the graphic novel, you would have understood the story in the movie? Yeah,
I understood it.
The story's very.
I didn't read the graphic novel, and I thought it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, they take a few liberties here and there. Some of it actually works better that way, but. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to read the book. I recommend you read the book because it's an amazing book.
Do you?
But irregardless, it's still a reasonably well-told story.
Do you find that if there's tons of flashbacks in a movie, it confuses the average audience?
I don't know.
Out of everyone I've spoken to, when people go see a movie with flashbacks, they talk about how confused they are. And
I realize I'm not an average moviegoer because I watch a lot of stuff.
Well, neither are we.
None of us are really.
I wouldn't say it confuses me so much as it frustrates me. I feel like it's a weird storytelling crutch.
Yeah, it chapter 2 had that problem a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Before we move on, who's your favorite character in Watchmen? Because I have several. No, like
That's a tall order.
No, I have two. I have two favorite. I can't decide between Rorschach or Doctor Manhattan for my favorite character.
I find Night Owl 2 the most relatable.
Yeah.
And I do think Comedian is kind of like a fascinating character study.
Oh yeah.
He's not a likable or sympathetic character whatsoever until like certain parts of the story, but he's very reprehensible. I find Dr. Manhattan fascinating though.
Fascinating is how you could describe each one of them.
Yeah, but no, I find him like the way he looks at the world is so bleak.
Yeah.
And like remote. Like he's completely removed from humanity. He just sees everything as like finite and fleeting, and he's just like, none of it matters ultimately. I'm gonna go live on Mars.
The scene that demonstrates that the most is probably when he's in that interview with the TV. He's on that.
The entire montage of him and his life flashing through various parts of
time. Oh god! And that song
really well done.
That song that plays over it is
yes.
incredible. Now, the soundtrack for this movie is fucking iconic. Like, you think Guardians of the Galaxy would have an iconic soundtrack?
It does.
It does. The soundtrack from this movie is all classic 60s tunes.
It kind of reminded me of Forrest Gump because a lot of the songs are like embellic.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm trying? They perfectly represent each decade.
There was a song. There actually all along the Watchtower, which was in Forrest Gump and in Watchmen. That's just a parallel. So I remember showing it to my dad, and my dad actually sits down very calmly watching the opening credits, which play over The Times They Are A-Changin' by Bob Dylan, and he's thinking to myself, like, he says when the title comes up, like, he said, this is a parody of history, you know that? And I'm like,
yeah, it's an alternate timeline.
Well, he the word he chose was parody, and it's not supposed to be funny, but he got all the references.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
He got
that opening sequence is brilliant.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Well, then that's not even this movie technically has two openings. There's Comedian's Assassinations set to Unforgettable by Nat King Cole, but yeah, it's again like it's such a fascinating movie.
Yeah, give it a watch.
Yeah,
give it a
no
chance.
pun intended. Pun intended. No pun intended. Give it a watch.
Give it a watch, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
One last thing. What I love about Rorschach, apparently Alan Moore confirmed this. Rorschach is like if Batman was a hobo and was mentally insane to the point where all he could do was just fight crime nonstop. Like, Rorschach is this obsessive, like, derelict character, but he's the one who jumpstarts the whole story.
I feel like we're kind of missing out on, like, bringing up that. I also really like Silk Spectre, too. We haven't mentioned her yet.
Malene Ackerman got top billing in that movie.
Yeah. I think she looks good with brown hair.
She's a natural blonde.
I know it's a wig, but I liked her. I liked her look in that movie. And Ozymandias,
played by Matthew Good.
Matthew Good.
Yeah.
He is. I love that. I love him as a villain. He's an interesting. Like, he almost reminds me of Thanos in a way, where it's like we must kill millions.
It's almost if
we must kill millions to save billions.
It's like if Thanos and Tony Stark were the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he's also a super genius. He creates technological innovations that dictate how the society evolves. And there's one of my favorite scenes with him in the movie is where he has these politicians and fossil fuel tycoons in his office, and they're snarling at him.
You sound like a socialist.
And then it's like, yeah, that's right. We want free energy. Well, free is just another word for socialist. And he calmly explains his rationale into what he wants to do. And he says, you know, guys, I could buy and sell you 3 times over.
10 times over.
Yeah, 10 times over. And that's something we should factor into our decisions before you make our little disagreement public. And then he completely sways them. And then they die.
Yeah, and then they get gunned down by some nut. Or some hired assassin.
But yeah, we're fawning over this too much. Let's continue on.
Moving on.
Jonah Hex. I've never seen Jonah Hex.
Never seen, don't care. Have you seen it, Michael?
Neither have I.
Alright, well, fuck
No.
it.
Not too, apparently it came and went.
And it bombed horribly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Green.
I think that the three of us watched so many movies that if, like, between the three of us, none of us have seen it, that's pretty much enough said.
Yeah.
That's a no-go. Have any of us sat through Green Lantern?
I have.
I have.
With an animated Ryan Reynolds suit.
And
That's
Taika
green.
Waititi is also in. I completely didn't recognize him the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
That's you know what? I'm going to be the devil's advocate in this and say it's not horrible. I get that they wanted. Was that the vehicle that they wanted to launch like an interconnected like Justice League spin-off universe?
I don't think so. I think they just want it to be standalone.
Well, they set it up where Sinestro was going to come back in a post-credit scene.
Well, yeah, but it'd be like a sequel to Green Lantern. I don't know about that.
What the hell happened to the villain?
Isn't it weird how the villain is played by Mark Strong, who would later come back as the villain for Shazam?
Yeah, I did think about that.
Are you talking about Parallax?
No, I'm talking about Sinestro.
Oh, Sinestro, yeah, that's
red
right.
guy.
Yeah.
With the yellow energy. That's Mark Strong.
Oh, wow, jeez.
Yeah, he's always the villain. He was also the villain in Kick-Ass.
Wow.
And he was also a supporting character in Kingsman. He must love comic book movies.
Yeah.
Graphic novel movies, I should say.
The whole,
I don't know what else to say about this. I don't hear it's like the worst superhero movie ever. I just hear like the effects are dated. It's too overly like CGI, and it's just not very like great.
Well, the year it came out, 2011, Marvel had stacked like 3 movies against it, so that's kind of why
It feels very mid 2000s.
Yeah, but the other movies that were its competitor that summer were Thor, Captain America: The First Avenger, and X-Men: First Class, and those movies had way better effects.
Yeah, those movies are way better than that.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you really need to say about Green Lantern?
Well, what the hell happened to Parallax? Got the Parallax got the Galactus treatment from Rise of the Silver Surfer.
It's a giant space cloud. Run.
That's not a good idea, guys.
Stop farting out the space gas.
Within like less than a year, I feel like Ryan Reynolds has totally just won this movie, and he's now like it's almost part of his like cheeky personality that he just like talks shit about this movie now.
Yeah, he's got Deadpool now. I think he's good now. Yeah. He can just move on. Well, Ryan Reynolds has been in some shit too. He was in Blade Trinity. So yeah, he's been in the superhero game for a while. And X-Men Origins Wolverine, but we don't like to talk about that one.
Yeah.
2012. What a year! What an experience!
So
the greatest, the Marvel Cinematic Universe came to a full head with the Avengers, and the Dark Knight trilogy came to us. What would you say, like a somewhat satisfying conclusion?
Well, there were a lot of things going against this movie to begin with. First of all, well, the hype was crazy. I was in film school at the time, and I had a couple of buddies in my class who were huge Nolan fans. All they talked about for 3 solid months was The Dark Knight Rises before it came out, because they were hype. They were going over Christopher Nolan's like filmography. They were fawning over how awesome the trailers were. It was going to be a gigantic flick. And what's super tragic is a very serious event marred this movie's opening weekend to the point where premieres were canceled. A shooter in Aurora, Colorado went to a midnight screening the Thursday night before this movie was officially released, where people like wanted to see the movie early. And what's the story? This dude walked into...
James Egan Holmes.
So this dude, James Egan Holmes, walks into the movie theater. He says, "Hi, I'm the Joker." And what's really sad is the audience kind of played along, acting like the movie theater staff were just playing up the drama. But then this guy pulls out what they don't understand is a real assault weapon and opens fire on a crowd. Like, I cannot imagine how horrifying that must have been to be in that theater. Because not everyone died. A lot of people got hurt, but there were a couple of fatalities.
12 kills and 58 injuries.
Yeah. Thank you, Lyle, for bringing us up to speed on that.
That's quite a lot, dude. That's a pretty major fraction of the audience.
That's a mass shooting.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a mass shooting.
And this was months before the big one of the worst shootings in American history. There's been tons of mass shootings in America, but this was before the Sandy Hook shooting, and which both those shootings happened the same year. But anyways, this movie, that event marred this movie's opening weekend. My friends and I mourned the disaster, but we still went to see it. I think on the Sunday. And we were ready for a good time. We had a lot of fun with this movie. Bane is the main villain, and Catwoman is kind of the secondary anti-villain.
She's an anti-hero, I would say.
Let's talk about the actress who plays her and her portrayal herself, because she's never actually called Catwoman in the dialogue.
No, she's just known as Selena.
Selena Kyle.
Or Miss Kyle.
Yeah. Miss Kyle.
And so it feels. I actually like Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. She's not my all-time favorite Catwoman, but she's pretty great.
Yeah.
She does a very adequate. She does a very good job as her.
Yeah.
Hits all the right notes.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I don't know how to feel about Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. We rewatched it this past summer too. Remember?
Yeah, we did.
Because it was our buddy Assad's idea to marathon the Nolan trilogy, and we watched all of them.
Yeah, we watched all.
Yeah,
it's really sad that the Dark Knight, out of this trilogy, the Dark Knight is the only one that people take away as like the classic, and the other two are almost forgotten.
Well,
because
they're fine.
They're fine movies,
but they don't reach the same level that the second one does.
Yeah. People had
that tends to be a lot of the case with most trilogies. The second one can be like considered the best, and the first one is like, it was a good stepping stone. But then the third one usually just falls flat. Yeah. I don't think when I rewatched this movie, I don't think it held up a little bit better than when I remembered it. There are a lot of holes, and there's a lot of things that are kind of just a little too convenient, like Bruce Wayne showing up in a business suit, just being like, "Hey, Selena, I'm back in Gotham." Oh, hey Gordon, throw a match. Bat signals like. How do you have time to do any of this, Batman?
They had to.
Never mind. Let's fight Bane.
This movie suffers from an over-cramming of exposition.
I think I know why this movie struggles a bit. I think it's because just before it came out, Nolan made Inception.
Yeah, 2010.
Yeah, 2010, like a few years before he made Inception. I think he put so much of his brain power into that one that Dark Knight Rises is like, okay, well, alright, I'm a little tired, but we'll get this done. It's kind of like when you have to pull an all-nighter to finish an exam. It's like, yeah, you're a little bit staggery, but you have to get it done. And I think for the most part, Dark Knight Rises succeeds.
Well, it's
not a Spider-Man 3, and it sure as fuck isn't a Batman and Robin.
Thank goodness for that.
But it's a perfectly adequate end for the series. It doesn't hit the same stride as Dark Knight, but it does. It does fine.
Bane gets. And I want to hear from Michael, but
Bane, Michael, what do you think of Dark Knight Rises? I've said my piece.
I do. Like I was saying about The Godfather 2 the other day, like when a sequel is that successful and that iconic, the next sequel it only has so much to live up to.
Yeah.
But there are scenes in this that I think are among the best in the trilogy. Like I love the opening sequence. That whole thing in IMAX.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I am okay with that.
Yeah. I actually saw this in IMAX, and I could tell when the aspect ratio changes in the theater I was in, because you can tell which shots were done on an IMAX camera and which ones weren't, because the aspect ratio when you see it in IMAX changes a lot. I noticed it because I was just learning about aspect ratio in film school at the time, so it was noticeable for me. But I still had fun with this. I actually saw it 3 times in the theater, so I was glad to revisit it. Bane gets a lot of mixed opinions from what I understand, because people didn't know how to. People liked him like as a villain, like as he was written as a character. And but The problem was a lot of people had trouble understanding him because the sound design on his voice and his mask was
Yes, and I can't understand what he was trying to say half the time because it was all obscured with his giant mask. You know, if you talk like Bane and you take the hands away from your face, you sound just like Sean Connery.
If I look back on the year 2012, the only thing I remember is people making Bane jokes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So many people
I don't know
could
what
do that impression.
Well, not only that, but we also completely forgot to mention this, but as of The Dark Knight, the biggest, all the YouTube channels that parodied The Dark Knight in 2008 made jokes about... They made jokes about Batman's voice. Yeah. And for some reason... When they ADR'd like the extra growly Batman voice, and I remember
I imagine it would be hell on your voice if you had to do that in every take.
Well, because they had to ADR it, and then I remember sitting in the theater in 2008 thinking his voice sounds cheesy. And Batman Begins doesn't have this problem. The only time he actually uses the growly voice is when he intimidates that falafel guy. Where are the drugs going? Swear to me! And
the falafel guy.
Yeah, well, because he goes to like a hot dog stand and he like screws the stand over. The guy's like, "Man, I have kids to feed. What? They don't like falafel?" Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, the detective.
The crooked detective.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, the sound design. Questionable sound design is actually a trope of several Chris Nolan pictures.
I've heard that Tenet has the same problem.
Michael, have you seen Tenet?
No, I have not. I have not been able to return to the theater yet. In the context of what's going on, but I would like to see it. I'm sure I'll watch it at some point.
Yeah. We Canadians actually made history because we're getting a lot of theatrical releases before the Americans do, which is pretty significant for us.
Yeah.
Like, we had Tenet release in theaters up in Canada. SpongeBob's Sponge on the Run, that movie came out here too. Theaters in our part of the country are limited capacity for obvious reasons, but...
Yeah, they don't stagger releases as much as they used to, like when we were growing up, mainly because of internet piracy.
Yeah.
But like there have been a few releases over the years that are more kind of like indie things that I've really wanted to see in the US like 1 year, and then like in Canada like 3-4 months later.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Is there anything else we need to say about The Dark Knight Rises?
Because that's the Nolan trilogy.
That's basically a Nolan trilogy. Probably like the highest mark of the DC, like all of DC film.
Yeah.
Was those movies.
Yeah.
Because I hate to say this, guys, but we've got some weeds to yank out of the ground here.
Yeah, we're going into some rough territory after this.
After the excitement of the Nolan trilogy, we were psyched when we heard that Christopher Nolan was going to produce Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder directed Watchmen, which I loved, and Chris Nolan produced the Batman trilogy, which I love.
What could possibly go wrong?
I don't know, how about everything? Holy God. I gotta be honest, I saw Man of Steel in the theater. I liked it, okay. I have an action figure of Henry Cavill's Superman. Henry Cavill, the only thing he was known for was a period piece show called The Tudors at the time, and my parents watched that show quite a bit, so they were excited when they heard that he was going to be Superman. But we were the exact first 20 minutes are on Krypton, and just like how Jor-El, Superman's father, was played by a complete diva, Marlon Brando. Once again, he is played by a diva named Russell Crowe. Well, I think that's kind of an interesting parallel. Both Jor-Els were divas. But Michael, you gotta tell that story of how Henry Cavill met Russell Crowe when he was younger. Michael, you still there?
Hello?
I think we lost him. Michael, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. We're going to call you back.
It's going well so far.
It is, yeah.
It's a little less to cover from our Marvel. Our Marvel one was insane.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Oh, that's what was going on. The WandaVision trailer.
Yeah, it's fucking annoying how like they kept sending messages over and over again. It's like, oh god, I gotta mute you guys.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Shit.
Alright, I'm gonna call him again.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, good. You're back.
Yeah, we lost your audio there, so we had to refresh. Okay, going back into it.
So tell the story of what happened when Henry Cavill and Russell Crowe met way before they'd worked on Man of Steel.
Yeah. I encourage people to look this up because I'm probably going to butcher the story, but I believe like when Henry Cavill was at drama school or something like that. I'm Googling it right now, and there's a whole clip of it on the Graham Norton show, so it's probably worth checking out. But Henry Cavill like met Russell Crowe as like a student or a teenager or something like that, and he was like asking him how to become an actor. And I think Russell Crowe's like advice was more or less just to be persistent with it. And then they literally went on to play father and son. So that's kind of
which is
really heartwarming. Yeah.
And it's incredible because Jor-El is the first mentor of the actual Superman identity. Because Pa Kent, Jonathan Kent is like...
Kevin Costner.
He's played by Kevin Costner, and he is Clark Kent's mentor, but Superman's mentor is Jor-El. So, like, I kind of like the dynamic with how his two father figures play an integral role. And
both his father figures have played Robin Hood.
That's true. Right. Except one of them was great, the other one sucked.
I think they both were kind of shitty, to be honest.
I heard that Prince of Thieves is like one of the most...
Yeah, but he doesn't have an English accent.
Oh.
Like, it's a pretty weak accent.
Oh.
And Ridley Scott's is just dull. I don't know. Just Errol Flynn. Stick with that. Moving... What?
Man of Steel, the biggest complaint that this movie gets is collateral damage up the ass.
Yeah, that final scene, man, what a mess.
Well, it puts Matrix Revolutions to shame. Remember where, like, Neo and Smith go at it? By the way, there's an interesting Neo and Smith parallel I found going on because two actors who are in the Matrix movies are in this movie. There is Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, and there's also the guy who plays Commander Locke in... the Matrix sequels was also a general in this movie.
Oh,
so,
okay.
But then
that memorable character.
I found a couple of parallels between Neo and Smith because Superman or Kal-El is like the one because he's Krypton's first natural childbirth after for centuries where the people of Krypton are artificially conceived in pods, very much like how in the Matrix where human beings are born into pods.
Okay.
And also Zod is like Agent Smith and his crew are like agents because they are like the garbage men of the society. They're military leaders, but they also like are the extreme police force. They control and they snuff out any anomaly. And in this case, Superman is the big anomaly that stops them from rebuilding Krypton. So
okay.
I know it sounds kind of like
you put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought about it as soon as I was leaving the theater. The pacing for this movie is really, really weird. I
think the tone in general is kind of weird. Like, I can buy a gritty Batman, but Superman being all moody and, like, unsure and kind of, like grim, just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he's much of a hero in this.
Yeah.
He's kind of just, like, beating up these people who are going to destroy the Earth and, like, I don't know. I don't feel much.
And... how he defeats Zod was extremely controversial for the time.
Yeah, that was like the only scene I remembered, though.
Yeah.
He's gonna kill like a random family, and it's like, no.
Well, Zod technically, I guess they're all related because, well, actually, no, they're not all related because they're not. Superman is not related to Zod in any way.
No, they just come from the same.
They're the last. They're an endangered species, though. That's what's really emotional about it.
I guess so.
But
he's an asshole.
it's kind of it's exhausting to talk about, but the big follow-up, this was a launch. It's worth mentioning that this
is supposed to launch an entire cinematic universe.
Yeah, so DC or Warner Brothers was watching what was going on at Disney Marvel, and they were like, you know what? We're going to take our heroes that we haven't touched the film rights to, and we're going to put them on the screen, just like what Marvel is doing, except they did it very, very sloppily.
I will say, though, that this movie does have defenders.
Man of Steel?
Man of Steel has quite a few defenders. I remember our equipment manager in TFS, Richie, said that this was like one of the best movies he ever saw, and that it was like a cinematic feat.
Well, it did come out Father's Day weekend, funny enough.
All right.
Funny, greatest movie of all time?
I know, one of like the best made movies of all time. I don't know. But as I said, this movie has its defenders. There's a lot of Snyder fans who really think that this movie set a good standard. I'm not one of them whatsoever, but yeah, to each their own. But yeah, let's set up the DCEU.
Now, very shortly after, and I do mean very shortly after Man of Steel cleaned up at the box office, because it was a hit. Like,
it was successful.
It got subpar reviews, but it made its money back. It broke even. So Lyle's getting the exact figure on how much it made.
It cost about $258 million, and it made back $668 million.
Oh yeah, that
is successful.
That's a hit. So given that, DC had the green light to kickstart their own universe
3 years later,
and then the wait was incredible because they announced very shortly after Man of Steel that of all the actors to get to play the Bat, Ben Affleck was going to play Batman.
The Chin.
And just like with Michael Keaton, people went nuts in the worst way possible. They were not happy.
Right.
I was really...
let Michael talk about it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, when I heard that Ben Affleck was going to be Batman, I think people were viewing it through the lens of like the 2000s Ben, like the Ben that we got that gave us like a string of duds,
like Jiggly Ben
and Daredevil.
Yeah. I couldn't even remember what that movie was called, but that one. But he was doing solid work at the time. That I think was just being kind of like underseen. Like I love the movie The Town.
Yeah,
Town's great.
He also directed
and
Argo.
Not to mention he was in a Best Picture winner only the year before.
Yeah, Argo.
So it's like he had proven himself as being capable, but I guess with celebrity, there always comes this kind of like, I don't know, your trail just follows you forever.
Yeah.
But I was actually quite excited when he was announced as Batman, and I was a fervent defender of his casting from day one.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah.
I thought he would deliver. Yeah. He was actually the reason I was really excited to see this. Unlike Man of Steel. So how do we feel about BVS DOJ?
Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. The wait for this was really long.
Yeah, you said that, but like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Well, just like with many other Snyder films, there's two cuts of this movie. There is an extended cut, and then there's the theatrical cut. The theatrical cut is an absolute mess.
It really is.
How could you fuck up one of the biggest comic book storylines in history? And this was an event that had been delayed in the film business for years, because for years filmmakers were trying to figure out how can we get Batman and Superman on the same screen and how can we get them to fight each other, and they finally delivered. So this was, for DC fans, this was like the Civil War, and this came out 2 months before Civil War, oddly enough. So this was the Civil War of the DC fans, and it's very sloppy.
Actually, I'd compare it more to the Avengers, because it's bringing all these characters. Just two. Disregard that. But I don't know about Civil War, but it's basically... Is it because it's two heroes fighting each other?
Yep.
Is that the comparison?
Two heroes fighting each other.
All right.
And all I know is that we knew Henry Cavill as Superman. Ben Affleck as Batman is probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I'd say this movie is 50% good, and that 50% is all the Batman stuff.
Well,
Jeremy Irons as Alfred is great.
Yeah, I agree.
J.K. Simmons was going to be as Commissioner Gordon, but all the scenes got cut.
They left them for Justice League though.
Yeah, they put it in Justice League, but I was a little disappointed about that. But whatever. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many pieces, and like that shot where he's looking at Robin's like battered up costume with like the spray paint all over. I'm like, there is a lot they're gonna reveal in later installments.
And
but yeah,
the movie actually on opening night it had a score on audio, a critical score on Rotten Tomatoes that was lower than that of The Room's. And I remember writing.
Yeah.
I remember I wrote a Facebook joke about that, saying, "I did not hit Superman. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit him. I did not. Oh, hi, Clark."
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I don't know, like this mess of a thing.
Do you know why it's a mess? We talked about how it's
because it's too long.
Well, not only
They
that,
have
but
too much to do.
They don't
in one movie.
The big fight doesn't happen for 2 hours.
Exactly. Not enough happens, and yet so much happens.
Yeah.
It's a weird experience.
And even when the big fight does happen, it's not paced well at all. Like at first, it's like, yeah, that's awesome, yeah, kick his ass, and then Bats uses kryptonite. Oh no, this is lame, and then. Zack Snyder went full on slow motion at times when it wasn't appropriate to do so.
I don't remember a whole lot of slow motion in that fight, but yeah, it wasn't like 300 where it's like speed ramping, like. But yeah, I don't know. The fight was unsatisfying. It was over before it even started. And then just out of nowhere, Doomsday appears, and like completely out of the blue, Wonder Woman appears.
Well, we actually. Well, that's another thing. Wonder Woman is played by Gal Gadot. She'll be back later.
Oh, she'll be back later.
Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot, is completely shoehorned into this movie, and no one really cared about that. There have been a lot of complaints about this movie, but no one complained about Wonder Woman. I didn't think she was a horrible character, because she's not a horrible character, but she's there in the background as like Diana Prince, and she's kind of just there as this mysterious figure, and only at close to the end does Bruce Wayne, when Bruce Wayne is discovering, hey, there's other enhanced individuals out in the world.
And they set up a whole cast of other heroes.
They show found footage of Barry Allen. They show found footage of Arthur Curry, like exploring a shipwreck with his trident.
That scene actually irks me more than like most things in this movie. Like that scene in particular stands out to me as just like really sloppily trying to set up a universe that is not earned. Mm-hmm. It's just like here are literally some teaser trailers for our upcoming projects.
Well, when
it really pains me.
I actually got annoyed with Age of Ultron the year before, because Age of Ultron felt like it had a commercial for the Infinity Stones in the scene where Vision is introduced as a character. But this is just a trailer in a movie. It honestly feels like they stopped the movie to play a trailer and then just cut back to the movie. And they played a bit. I think they played an amazing hand way too early in their anthology and in their cinematic universe, because Batman vs Superman needs build up, and they just thought, we'll cast Batman as this big star and we'll throw him in with Henry Cavill that people already know, and it'll be awesome. But they just convoluted it way more than it needed to be.
How do you guys feel about Jesse Eisenberg's turn as Lex Luthor?
Oh, I love him.
Oh, he's amazing. When I was watching the scene where he's in the prison, I was like, I am so afraid that he's gonna get a Razzie, and he did. Like, it was like unbelievable that this guy who was like nominated for an Oscar for Social Network was just put in this role that just did not serve him well at all.
Yeah,
it was insane, and like I'm not sure if it was part of the direction.
It's almost like they were, because we've talked about how Batman is often susceptible to like controversial castings, like people who just can't see him as Batman until they are Batman.
Yeah,
it's like they almost went so far in the other direction from what you'd expect Lex Luthor to be. Like it was such like kind of like edgy stunt casting that
Did not pay
totally
off.
backfired. It was no, it was bad casting. Let's
Yeah.
settle this. I really enjoy his work. I think The Social Network is like one of my favorite movies of the 21st century. I watch it a lot.
Yep.
And I really enjoy his work, and I think that he nails a particular type of character.
Yeah.
And in that movie, even I, as a big fan of him, can't really defend it.
Not really.
What's really sad isn't it tragic how both the two leading guys of The Social Network, Jesse Eisenberg and Andrew Garfield, both went on to play comic book characters in iconic franchises, and both of their performances got somewhat panned.
Well, people actually liked Andrew Garfield for a time, so I wouldn't agree
Well,
with you there.
Andrew Garfield got into some controversy. He was fired.
Yeah, he got fired, but like people liked his performance, so I wouldn't really go there.
Yeah.
But not that I really like not that I'm defending the web series, because I don't really like those Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
But anyways, Batman v Superman had a few memes.
It could have been good.
Had a few memes. You got Sad Affleck. You got the
Save Martha.
The Save Martha.
Save
Martha. That was stuck in my head. I forgot for a second. But yeah, the Save Martha scene is dumb as a brick.
And comedian is Thomas Wayne in that flashback at the beginning of the movie.
That's like if Hulk and Batman were fighting, and they both found out that their names were Bruce, and they're like, "Oh, let's just be friends and fight." Let's fight.
It's very similar to the episode of The Simpsons, Lemon of Troy, where Milhouse finds out there's another Milhouse.
Yeah, it's so good.
Just before I forget, I want to say one thing about this movie, because we were talking about flashbacks. I really want to get this in there before we move on. There are way too many flashbacks in Batman v Superman. It is a problem that persists in the DCEU for a couple movies, but to me, they put like action scenes as like flashbacks or like dream sequences, especially in this movie. There's a lot of weird like nightmare sequences. And it irks me to no end that there's like action with supposed stakes that just vanish when you realize what we're seeing is not what they're seeing. And I remember this movie played that trick like so many times that at a certain point I just like checked out mentally. I was like, why? I know that this is a superhero movie and none of this is happening in the real world, but I was like, at a certain point I was like, I just don't care about anything.
Well, the next movie is actually very personal to us for a very key reason. I want to take you guys back to 2015. That year, San Diego Comic-Con happened, and two trailers were released by Warner Brothers. One of them was Begrudgingly. The first trailer was a full, 5-minute trailer for Batman vs. Superman, and I'm not going to lie, the trailer made it look really awesome. The trailers made both these movies look incredible than they really were. The second trailer, which actually got leaked, and then Warner Brothers just begrudgingly released the full trailer, was for Suicide Squad.
Oh, no.
Well, I want to talk about this because we're all...
There's a lot to say.
We're all Torontonians, and in the summer of 2015, Suicide Squad was filming in our backyards. Literally in our backyards. It was...
Yeah.
I actually got a job for a locations placement personnel department that hires contractors out in Toronto, and I got to be on the set... Oh, not away, just slightly away from the set of a scene that was actually in one of the trailers for Suicide Squad. But what's really tragic is I know people who were on and off the set because this set took up a big chunk of downtown.
Yeah.
They turned half of Yonge Street into Midway City, and a good chunk of what they shot ended up on the cutting room floor. Just the direction of this movie. If you think Batman vs. Superman is sloppy, this movie has a whole other problem with coherency.
Well, I think the best way to describe it is the producers got scared. They were getting tired of people saying that these movies had no life to them, that they were joyless experiences all the way throughout. And then they saw Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like, well, why don't we do that? Let's put a bunch of songs in it. Let's add some colors and candy-colored scenes. Let's add a whole lot of trip editing. we're gonna stop doing it in the second and last third of the movie, but hey, it catches the audience, right?
But the problem with that is the trailer that I saw from Comic-Con from San Diego Comic-Con in 2015.
It felt like a David Ayer film.
It felt like a David Ayer mindfuck, and I was really looking forward. And then the movie I got was nothing like the trailer. The movie we got was this colorful mess, and
actually, I'd only say like the beginning is colorful. The rest of it is just shit, ugly brown.
Now, you want to talk?
It doesn't make Toronto look very good.
Oh no, there's much better movies that if you want a comic book movie that accurately represents the geography of Toronto and does visual justice to our city, go watch Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yeah.
Which has both Marvel actors and DC actors too.
Yeah, just go watch that instead.
So, anyways, back to Shit Squad. I feel bad, like, because I spent a night of my life working on this, and I was thrilled to be a part of it. And a lot of people were. Like, the Batmobile rocketing up and down Yonge Street, that was iconic, and we were...
comic book scene basically added to nothing.
Well, we gotta talk about something. There was another big character cast to a huge actor. Jared Leto took on the Joker, and I think this is the worst iteration of a live action Joker I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I saw when David Ayer released the set photo, I thought, oh cool, it's going to be like a Marilyn Manson shock rocker type of Joker. I thought he was going to be like torture porn Joker, which could have worked. That torture porn Joker gets overshadowed by clubby douchebag crime boss Joker.
Well, that's not even half the problem. Half the problem is he's not even in the movie, really.
Yeah, no, apparently
he has no bearing on the plot.
They shot at least an hour's worth of footage that could have been a solo Joker Harley Quinn movie on its own.
Yeah.
And
my biggest disappointment with the Joker is the stuff we don't see, because in the he's definitely underutilized. The editing in this movie to begin with is a mess. Like I was just saying a minute ago, there's way too many flashbacks for me to care about anything happening in the present. The thing that disappointed me beyond belief about this portrayal of the Joker is they had that Comic-Con trailer where, like, at the end of the trailer, he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you really, really bad," or whatever. I don't do Joker as well as you guys do.
Yeah.
And then the context of that line within the movie is him, like, kind of torturing Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of hated that, because I was like, you never really see the Joker actually, like, physically torture someone, like really aggressively and violently in any of these Batman movies.
Yeah, see, when I saw that moment in the trailer, I'll just infer this. I thought he was talking to Robin.
Yeah,
I thought he was gonna kill Robin in that scene, but like
Jason Todd.
Yeah, Jason Todd. I thought that's what he was doing to. I didn't know it was Harley Quinn, because that would explain the scene in Batman v Superman where Batman looks at the suit.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I give Robin more credit because he's one of my favorite superheroes, but yeah, I thought he was going to be in that movie, and I thought they were going to show his death. But yeah.
Batman is in the movie very briefly.
Is he though?
His scenes are well. He's in one scene that actually got a lot of flack.
He's in 2 scenes, actually 3 scenes.
He's in a scene with Deadshot, and he's in a scene with Bruce Wayne is in a scene with Amanda Waller,
and he's in a scene with Harley Quinn
where he punches her the fuck in the face.
Well, she was about to attack him underwater.
But people complain. People pulled the misogyny card. Like, there was a similar controversy, like what happened with the whole Mystique and Apocalypse strangling image.
Yeah.
But anyways, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn
she's a bright spot of the movie. I would say she is a highlight.
I like her.
I do like her in this movie.
Will Smith as Deadshot was good too.
Actually, I don't know about that. Like, the way we talk about Jack Nicholson, the way we talk about Jim Carrey, I kind of feel like it's just Will Smith being Will Smith.
That's
if I'm being
very
brutally
fair.
honest. There's only a few moments where I see him in a character.
Going back to Jared Leto, we didn't talk about how the on-set stories of shit he pulled was... Okay.
That's another reason why he's the worst Joker.
Jared Leto is this really pretentious method actor.
Well, no, actually, at this time in his career, he just won an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club.
That's true, yeah.
So he had the clout.
Yes.
He had, like, the chops. And I'm not saying he's a terrible actor. He's been in good things.
No, not at all.
Requiem
like,
for a Dream and stuff.
I loved him in Requiem for a Dream. He's great.
Yeah, he is. But, like, in this movie, I think he was, like, taking way too many notes from Heath Ledger. Where it's like, I'm going to be a method actor. I'm going to be a method actor. And it's just obnoxious the way he acted on set.
He sent, like, dead rats to Margot Robbie.
He sent dead rats, used condoms, those are just the ones that stick out. I think he also sent like other like butchered animals or something.
Oh god.
Or like old teeth or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And apparently he was super reclusive. Like once the camera stopped rolling, he would go to the washroom. He would go to the washroom in alleys. Like that's how gross
he'd piss in an alley.
Yeah, and he wouldn't talk to the cast. He was very reclusive. And this is all like just conjecture, just what we've heard.
I don't know, but it just seems like his behavior was a little unacceptable.
I have heard, because I worked on this, I did unfortunately hear through the grapevine at the time that there were production mishaps, like a police cruiser crashed into a Tim Hortons. No one got hurt though.
Wow.
No, it's not funny because
it's not funny, but if no one got hurt, it's just that's very Canadian.
That production was super stressful because the studio was burning through cash like on a daily basis. They were reshooting constantly, and
so that's what happens when you try to change the tone.
After
you finish shooting a movie,
because they were here for a super long time, and it actually got to the point where city officials got annoyed with them. It's like, guys, like get out, like seriously, you're done. Because they shut down big chunks of downtown during rush hour, and they wanted reshoots too. So it was just, I heard through the grapevine, because I apparently knew people who knew ADs who worked on this movie. And just for our film audience, our audience who has
AD is an assistant director.
An assistant director. They are basically the crew coordinators. They are the main crew coordinators on the set.
They're the time management people, basically. They make sure everything's on task.
The production coordinator puts everything on paper. The ADs execute that said notes. So, anyways, Suicide Squad, it was memorable to literally be a part of it on our streets. And the Halloween of 2016, I'm a hypocrite because even though I was single at the time, I dressed up as Jared Leto's Joker because I had dressed up as
Why does it matter if you're single or not?
Well, because I was dressing up. I'll tell you why. Because the year The Dark Knight came out, I dressed up as Heath Ledger's Joker for Halloween.
Okay.
And
you were single then?
I was single then, and I was also single when I dressed up as Jared Leto's Joker. Because Jared Leto's Joker and Harley Quinn were the ultimate couple's costume that year.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking to myself, you guys, I know it's Halloween, but do you guys understand how psychologically torturous and abusive this relationship is? It is not something to be proud of.
Not pretty, no.
Yeah.
Well, Lyle, how would you feel if you saw a Sid and Nancy costume duo?
I'd be like, okay, cool, but you do know what happens, right?
There's even a scene in 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah, there's a scene in 13 Reasons Why that plays out like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I will say, okay, like, production aside, is there anything else we want to say about the movie?
The soundtrack is cheesy.
It is.
And the ending sucks.
It's a wallpaper soundtrack.
The ending's horrible.
I would say it's like I would describe it as a wallpaper soundtrack because it literally plasters every scene and it adds virtually nothing. It's just like here's Seven Nation Army, here's an Eminem song, here's a Kanye West song.
Oh, and
here's a few 60s sones just put in for good measure.
I have heard a rumor that like apparently the company that cut the trailer was like rehired to like actually cut the film itself.
I did hear that.
I kind of believe that.
Which probably speaks to like why this movie feels more like a commercial than a narrative you can sink your teeth into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang.
Speaking of Jack Courtney, do you remember?
I think that's his best performance, quite honestly.
The song that introduces him is so on the nose. He's Australian, so let's get the biggest Australian band with a rock song about doing crime. Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap by AC/DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, right?
It's so on the nose. Also, Bohemian Rhapsody is used in the closing scene, and it's so inappropriate.
It really is, yeah.
Basically,
oh yeah, there was also that Heathen song by 21 Pilots.
Oh god.
That was overplayed as
that
fuck.
song played, I was working at HMV the summer that movie came out. That song played non-stop.
Yeah.
All my friends are not really my friends. Na 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 na. Oh god.
Yeah, yeah, that's basically, I will say this. I am very much looking forward to the James Gunn Suicide Squad.
What a bunch of a-holes.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a wholly dispensable cast. Any of them could die. By the way, for a team called Suicide Squad, not too many members got killed off. I think only...
Well, there was Slipknot.
Slipknot is a non-event. We don't talk about Slipknot because there's nothing to say.
Slipknot showed up, and then you knew he was going to die because he doesn't get
He doesn't get an introduction, and like his powers are shit. He's the man who can climb anything.
Yeah.
And the only other one who died was El Diablo, and his death was way more deserved.
Yeah.
And way more earned, too. Like, he sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
That's it. Really?
Suicide Squad. Well, the DCEU was in rough shambles, but a movie almost saved it.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Well, the movie was good, but the cinematic universe left a lot to be desired. To 2017's Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins. It was a huge landmark film at the time with its progressive nature. You had Gal Gadot back, and we get to see her more fleshed out. This movie felt like they put the first Thor movie and Captain America, the First Avenger, into a blender, because you have a goddess who lives in a mythical realm, who leaves that realm to go to Earth, and there's a fish out of water story.
And a world war to
top it off. And a character named Steve gets in a plane and makes the ultimate sacrifice to save the world.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Wonder Woman's fine. I think it's pretty good for what it is.
Well, it was such a breath of fresh air because
it's way better than anything we saw beforehand.
After 3 straight DC movies that were sloppy in a lot of ways, Wonder Woman felt straightforward and coherent and really, really relatable. Like, even if you're not a woman, like remember.
I think the parts that work the most are the scenes between Diana and Steve.
Well, yeah, that is also true.
Their chemistry is very good.
Yeah.
I thought, my fear was that, because we saw Ghostbusters 2016, the summer before, and that movie's femininity was grounded in man-hating, and that was a real turnoff for me. But Wonder Woman didn't have that problem. The male characters in Wonder Woman are really written well.
Yeah, and she doesn't bash on them. She works alongside them quite well.
She makes like really quippy jokes with them too.
Yeah, they all get along quite nicely. Yeah. But like the action scenes are not bad either. They're pretty well done for the most part.
Well,
I like the scene where they storm that European village and like vindicate it from the Germans.
Yeah. I
love the scene in No Man's Land when she's just like kind of. She decides that she has to kind of like run through it, and like I said it yesterday when we were talking about Captain America a bit, but like the super heroic stuff that's like kind of grounded in real life, kind of drama and conflict. I think that this movie does that really well.
Yeah. You're right. She does feel like a hero in this movie, which is nice.
Yeah,
and. At this point, we were kind of going through superhero fatigue in our own right because, I don't know, there were like, how many heroes had we seen at this point at the movies where like they have heroic moments, but how often did a hero's moment feel earned? If that's a fair question, because, we'll put it this way, at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, did you feel like his hero moment was earned?
Yeah.
I kind of do.
Yeah.
How about Guardians of the Galaxy, where, like the hero moment.
Well, I mean, like Guardians, they're kind of atypical heroes, so I don't know.
Yeah.
They have their moment in this. They do the right thing in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But Wonder Woman felt fresh. That's all I can really say.
I didn't really know what to feel about that villain reveal.
Well,
that felt kind of tacked on.
That's ironically everyone who is both praised and simultaneously like all the filmmaker YouTube channels that like talk about screenplays and they talk about like how to, build up a climax, talk about the ending as like the weakest point in the movie when it should have been the strongest.
It is very and then it turns into a giant CGI fest, which gave me horrible doomsday flashbacks.
Well, I
like the actor too, Daniel Thewlis. He mostly does pretty good stuff.
Well, yeah. Would you have rather the speech he gives her was well written and it was well acted out, but when he starts punching the fuck out of her, I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah, and then it's like the sword didn't do it, but it turns out that Diana was the weapon all along.
So she had like special blood too. That was kind of cool.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
And by the way, she makes the same hand motion with her fists to her gauntlets. If you clash them together, if she clashes them together with it to make an X with her fists.
Who's that remind me of?
Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
And he was still on the way, Black Panther.
Yeah,
So
wait a year.
Yeah. No, 6 months. Just 6 months.
That came out in 2017.
Black Panther came out in early 2018. So that came out in the summer. So
next year.
And then the hope I had for the DCEU got slightly diminished when I saw DC's answer to the Avengers, and literally co-directed by the same guy who directed the Avengers.
Justice League. Good lord.
This movie hurts me.
I genuinely don't like it at all. You kind of like it.
I enjoyed it the first time I saw it, but nothing has motivated me to check it out again. Like, it's on Netflix, and I just leave it there.
I was very eager to see it, mainly because I wanted to see Ezra Miller's Flash.
That's
kind of the only thing that made me see it, to be honest.
Story time involving Ezra Miller.
Oh yeah, I've actually met Ezra Miller in person.
Really?
My girlfriend and more or less my girlfriend and her best friend have kind of like this tradition where they see Ezra Miller's band. I kind of forget the name of it, but yeah, we saw them live. And at the end of each time he plays, he gets to meet the audience, and there's always like a massive lineup. Sons of an Illustrious Father, that was the name of their band. They're kind of like an art rock band. They're very indie. They're I don't know I don't have much to say about them, but like they are. I saw them live, and like I got to meet Ezra Miller live, and I was a little bit too starstruck to say much of anything, but it was a very cool experience to meet him.
That's cool.
Yeah. But anyways, he doesn't. He has his moments in Justice League, but ultimately he's kind of just like a little irritating. No fault of his. It's just like he doesn't have much to do.
They have to remember they shoehorned him into a story, and they still have to do his solo film, Flashpoint.
That's kind of the problem. Like, this is supposed to be the big Avengers movie, and yet we only have like half the crew. Really,
only 2 of them got solo movies. Wonder Woman and Supes were the only ones who got solo films.
Well, I mean, it's fucking Batman. We all know Batman's deal. So, I'd say 3 of the main characters are basically established.
Yeah.
And then you have like Aquaman
and Cyborg.
Aquaman barely uses his powers in this movie.
Well, he goes to Atlantis one time to see Amber Heard. And
but for the most part, in the end of the movie, he's just kind of jumping around and hitting people with sticks.
His character arc also made no sense.
He had an arc?
I guess. I don't remember
I don't know. He's like all drunk. He's like, I'm not gonna help the world, even though the oceans take up the vast majority of the world. But
Okay, I'll help.
Oh, now I'm gonna help.
I'll tell you that,
my man.
In a nutshell, is actually my biggest problem with this movie.
Okay,
the resistance to help trope. Is something we see in a lot of superhero movies, a lot of action movies. It's part of the hero's journey, which has permeated decades of storytelling. But the resistance to want to help in this movie especially frustrates me because it's like a superhero team-up movie. We haven't met a bunch of these characters before.
3 of them we
So
hadn't
they-
met.
Yeah, so they do that story. They do that, like, I'm not going to help you arc 3 times in this movie.
Did the
And
Flash,
it's like,
was the Flash
it's like-
resistant? I don't
yeah,
think he was
the
that
Flash,
resistant.
Aquaman, and Cyborg are all resistant to joining the team.
Until, okay.
We know they're going to join the team, but to me, it just speaks to the bigger problem in the movie of, like, there was not enough groundwork laid in previous.
I find the interplay between the team very weak, too.
There's also a
Yeah.
line where when Barry Allen meets Wonder Woman and Batman, there's a line that actually Infinity War did better. It's like, oh hey, Bruce! Oh, sorry, we're not supposed to say who you are. And it kind of reminded me of Peter in saying, I'm Peter, by the way,
Yeah.
Doctor Strange. Oh, we're using our made-up names, then I am Spider-Man.
Wow.
Barry Allen and Tom Holland's Peter Parker really did have some parallels.
Kinda. They're the ones, like, in the movie, it's like Flash has only done this for, like, a week or something, because he doesn't even know how to fight people.
Oh, and
Even though he's taken down guys like Captain Boomerang.
and by the
before.
way, what is the deal with Watchmen actors being the fathers of these heroes? Because you have
Oh, yeah, Billy Crudup comes back.
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan is his dad, is Flash's dad. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan was Bruce Wayne, Thomas Wayne.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
Patrick Wilson, Night Owl, was the bad guy in Aquaman.
What the fuck, Watchmen?
He's also in Batman v Superman. He does the voiceover of the president.
That's an actor playing 2 different characters in the same universe.
And Carlo Gugino does the voice of the computer in Superman's or Zod's ship or whatever. I don't know.
right, yeah.
Anyways, Justice League. Enough about Watchmen because I like Watchmen better.
Yeah.
When Watchmen's a better superhero team up than Justice League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was
I hate the villain. I will just flat out
Steppenwolf.
say it. Steppenwolf sucks.
No, it's like if Loki and the Abomination and Malekith were thrown into a blender and you got the worst qualities mixed in with Loki. I remember we were watching the movie with our buddy and Steppenwolf enters via like Skybeam and he makes a big speech and you're like, "Hi, Loki," in the goofy voice and you were just,
Hi, Loki.
yeah.
Yeah, but like I feel like everything that the DCU tried to do is that they felt like 5 steps behind Marvel because like they tried to make a fun movie with Suicide Squad way after like Guardians did it, and they're still making weak villains way after like Marvel kind of upped their game a bit.
Well, that's another thing.
This was like around this came out around the time of Homecoming, right?
Justice League's competition at the box office was Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, but like Homecoming came out after, before, right?
Homecoming came out before, yeah.
Yeah, so like they were already doing better villains by this time.
Yeah, and the villain in Suicide Squad, we didn't even talk about.
Oh yeah, because she's a non-event. It's the Enchantress all along, guys. It's not the Joker.
Oh my god.
Did we lie in the trailer?
Yeah,
It made
you
you think that the
fucking lied.
Joker was the main threat?
What the hell?
No.
Yeah. So, Justice League, it's like, well, they initially wanted to do it in 2 parts, but they're like, no, we're going to do this in just 1 part.
I mean,
What really disappoints me is within the greater scheme of Justice League movies is that for the longest time George Miller was rumored to be directing a Justice League film, and the fact we'll never get to see that really upsets me.
Yeah.
Well, when we get into the future of this franchise, I want to ask you a really interesting question about the future of Justice League. Moving on.
Do we want to talk about the Snyder Cut?
We're going to talk about that in the future.
Oh, that's
what
what you're alluding to. I wasn't sure.
So
next,
the next movie after Justice League, we got to see Arthur Curry, played by Jason Momoa, as Aquaman. We got to see his solo film.
I did not see it.
Michael and I saw it. Michael, I don't think you liked this one.
I'm not a huge fan of it. I find it kind of mediocre. I don't hate it, but I don't feel much for it.
Yeah.
I am. Let me preface this by saying I am a really big fan of James Wan because
He's pretty
As
good.
you guys know, I really dig the horror genre. And I think he's done some fantastic things for that genre.
Oh yeah.
So when I heard that he was making this, I was like, okay, why not?
Yeah.
But he, I don't know, Underwater Thor, as I like to call it, didn't really do a lot for me.
It actually bear more resemblance to Underwater Black Panther because Atlantis is somewhat like Atlantis is very similar to Wakanda, where they have like this great power that can mend the whole world if they use it for the good of humanity, but they hate humanity because humanity is dumping toxic shit in the ocean.
That's kind of interesting.
It's really really interesting, and also Aquaman doesn't even want to be king. Like he's the heir to the throne of Atlantis, and he doesn't want the job. So the whole movie is him having a character arc. He has a character arc in this movie that actually works.
Okay.
And
I hear this movie's really, really out there. Like the visual effects are so overblown that you get kind of sensory overload.
They do dominate when you see any one given frame of this movie. Yeah, there's tons of sea creatures like on screen, and the final battle. Actually, there's like every single Atlantean is riding. And by the way, there's a rivalry for the throne, and he has to challenge a pompous family member, just like in Black Panther. It sounds like this movie just copied and pasted Black Panther, but there are some differences.
Okay.
For one thing, the hero actually leaves his homeland for most of the movie. In Black Panther, he only leaves his homeland for like 10 minutes to go to Korea.
Yeah.
But then Arthur Curry and what's Amber Heard's character's name again?
Mara, I think.
Mara, yeah.
Mara.
So they go to basically the mainland, and they go to I think a desert, which is the polar opposite of his environment. And he has to find some artifact to go find the location of where his mother is laid to rest. Oh, by the way, his parents are played by Nicole Kidman and Tamira Morrison, a.k.a. Jango Fett. Yeah. And what's really cool is Tamira Morrison is a Kiwi, and Jason Momoa is Polynesian, so...
And Nicole Kidman's Australian.
Oh, wow, so they're all from these, like, oceanic parts of the world.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
So I have a question as someone who hasn't seen this movie.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it to me?
Oh, that's a good question. Michael, you go first. Would you recommend it?
I think I would recommend it to you because I think you would get a kick out of watching it.
Yeah, because it seems weird. I have an odd sensibility to certain things, so yeah, I feel like I would probably get a kick out of Aquaman. Yeah. It just didn't interest me when it came out, so that's why I skipped it.
Yeah.
What else? Is there anything else to really talk about with Aquaman, or should we?
Not much.
Go to other.
So
has the ship sailed on Aquaman?
The ship has sailed. So basically, 2019 was a great year for not just the DC EU, but for DC in general, and we'll explain why. The first movie I ever saw as a Toronto resident, which, just like Suicide Squad, was also shot in Toronto, and we got a parallel here. Yeah. I worked on Suicide Squad, and Lyle worked on...
Shazam!
Shazam!
Nice.
Yeah, I got to work on that for a day. I was a rigging grip. And the funniest thing is, like, when I saw the movie, I was like, where's the part that I worked on? And it was on the giant amusement park set. And there's actually a crucial scene that takes place in a circus tent. And I'm like, oh my god, I helped rig that. Like, I was the one who... I helped crank that thing up.
Lucky you. The scene I worked on for Suicide Squad got cut.
Because I was afraid that my scene would have gotten cut or something, but like, yeah, it was actually pretty. It was a pretty pivotal moment in the movie, and that was cool. Yeah, but like Shazam, it's it kind of has a little bit to do. It's kind of similar in tone to like a Spider-Man like MCU movie, where it's like it's a kid who wants to be like.
Well, there's a mythical element that is, but it's almost a parody of itself.
I'm lying. The only thing it has in common is that they both end with a Ramones song in the credits.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
that is true.
And it's also like a doodling, like
the sketchbook look.
Yeah,
that's very similar to. I think that's the only thing that made me think of Homecoming. But like the real comparison that this movie gets is to Tom Hanks's Big.
Tom Hanks
as Big.
All right, yeah.
It's
like if Big was a superhero movie.
You didn't see that until I brought it up, and I'm like,
I haven't seen Big until this year.
Yeah, but now that you've seen it, do you see the comparisons to Shazam?
Oh yeah, except Big goes into touchy territory because of the whole romantic storyline.
That's the one thing that doesn't hold up. Yeah.
But there's none of that in Shazam.
No.
It's basically the villain in this movie is really fucking evil. Like, and, no, seriously,
he is.
He's like, he's off-putting. Like, it's like Syndrome in The Incredibles. He's so twisted, and you don't take him seriously until he actually. There's a scene where he goes into like his family business. And he unleashes like demons on his own family, and they murder.
Yeah, they slaughter everyone.
Yeah,
it's pretty gruesome.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, because Mark Strong, he's not a memorable villain whatsoever, but I actually do think he's a pretty well done villain, all things considering. It's a very interesting dichotomy because it's like, he's good, but like he doesn't stick in my head that well. I don't even remember his name, to be honest.
I liked this. I did like this movie. I liked the Shazam movie. I thought it was I'd give it like a solid B+. Like I think it was a very fun superhero movie, and it did a lot of like kind of funny bits where it kind of deconstructs superhero tropes.
Yeah.
The only thing that I find distracting and not really enjoyable about this movie is whenever they lean too far into the mythology, like when he goes into that like weird like cave thingy where that bearded wizard guy was talking to him. Like, I was not really invested in that bit. I kind of was just like, I want to get back to the funny superhero hijinks. I get exposition is like a necessary storytelling device, but I was turned off by that stuff. But otherwise, like, I saw it last year, whenever it came out, and it stuck with me. I thought it was a perfectly enjoyable film.
Yeah, Zachary Levi.
Yeah,
is a really. I think he's a really good Shazam.
He is.
Like he has like that energy of a kid while still having like the body of like a god. So
I don't know how to feel about the fact that they tried to interconnect the fact that the Justice League exists, because there's a scene where like the kid brags about being friends with Superman, and then a body double of Superman shows up to lunch in this cafeteria at the end.
That's kind of... Well, I will say this about
And at this
movies.
point, to our audience, it's worth mentioning that Henry Cavill has kind of walked away from the DCEU, and so has Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Like Gal Gadot and Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa are the only ones.
Well, what about Ray Fisher as Cyclops? Or
Cyborg.
Not Cyclops. Cyborg.
I completely forgot to mention Ray Fisher is the only like nobody who was cast in Justice League, and apparently he's supposed to get his own film, maybe. By the way, out of all he's part of two superhero teams. He's part of the Justice League and the Teen Titans.
The Teen Titans, yeah. I think they were maybe saying that his movie would introduce the Teen Titans.
Oh.
Which is probably the way to go.
By the way, there was a shot in the trailer of Justice League that
mimicked Iron Man.
He has like a face shield that is almost identical to Iron Man.
Helmet,
Yeah.
I'm glad they cut that out, honestly.
Well, he also has very little in common with Iron Man.
The thing I will say about Aquaman and Shazam is that they kind of go in the right direction of being fun comic book movies, rather than being dour and overly severe and serious.
So
DC's trying.
So they were getting their direction kind of back on track, and so Shazam, that's kind of all you can really say.
It's fun.
So the next one, oh god, how about another joke, Michael? What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner in a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? I'll tell you what you get! You get what you fucking deserve! And remember, folks, that's life. Oh, God. Joker.
Oh, man.
This has nothing to do with DCEU, by the way.
It's really not, but I think it's all the better for it.
It is a standalone film, no continuity to any universe, directed by the director of The Hangover, Todd Phillips.
Yeah, Todd Phillips. And Old School.
And The reception of this movie
it's very very divided.
I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
The movie itself, was the way they promoted it. Well, the promotional material, for once...
The trailer was amazing.
The trailer sold us exactly what it was going to deliver.
No, the trailer is so iconic that if you go on YouTube, you could basically, do any character. You could do Squidward, you could do, George Costanza from Seinfeld, and they cut footage to make it look like the Joker.
Oh god.
They do that. I was tempted to do that.
There's a parody trailer with Squidward.
Yeah, no, it's called Squidward. And I was very tempted to do one myself of Donnie Darko, but I just never got around to it.
Wow.
But that's okay.
You gotta do it now.
Now I gotta. I don't know. But yeah, it was a very iconic trailer. It got me very excited for it. What are your thoughts on Joker?
Oh my god.
Well, wait a minute. Did Joaquin Phoenix have the same level of unsuredness as Keaton and Ledger?
Because we've talked about four different Jokers: Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, and now
we're at 5. Now we're at Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but were people unsure? Because he's a very well-respected actor, and he has so much range. Were they unsure that he could pull it off?
I don't
recall.
I don't remember ever speaking to anyone who had that take or seeing a lot of that online or anything. I think he was kind of well-known enough as someone who can play an eccentric character that I think that there was faith put in him.
Maybe the question was more would he live up to Ledger or something like that?
Well,
or would he do his own thing?
The conversation that I was having with people after I left the movie theater was he may actually have one-upped Ledger because of
it's definitely a worthy interpretation. Yeah.
Well, this is also an origin story. This is the first time since Nicholson that we had seen an origin story of the Joker. Because
most of the time it's pretty ambiguous, but yeah.
Yeah, but the way I gotta be honest, the filmmaking care that just went into this is astounding, and the controversy that led up to the release actually had nothing to do with casting for once in a DC movie's run. What happened was. No one really bashed Joaquin Phoenix. If I recall correctly,
no, he was often
it was
the best part.
For once people didn't lose their shit at the fact that an actor was cast as the Joker. They said, okay, he's perfect. I actually saw the movie The Master very recently, and not even 10 minutes into that movie, I understand completely why Joaquin would choose that role. And the thing about Joaquin Phoenix is that he is very, very picky with the scripts he chooses when he gets them optioned to him.
Yeah.
There was something in this story that made him say yes at a time when actors all over the place are taking comic book roles for the sake of their careers. Joaquin Phoenix didn't do it for money. He did it because he felt like there was something legitimate to say in this movie. And he said exactly that. And What's very unfair, and this plays into what I want to talk about with the marketing and the controversy, is that he was actually in a very controversial interview that he walked out of and then came back to because they tried to back him into a corner where they tried to actually get him to talk about whether or not this movie is dangerous.
Yeah,
and
there was a huge conversation that this movie would incite actual violence.
For once, I gotta be honest. The American media, not so much the Canadian media, the American media overhyped the violence hysteria way too much. And there's a reason for that, a very disturbing reason. The movie was going to explore, mental health, isolation, and just violence born out of isolation and born out of lack of trust in the system. This movie... The movie's premiere actually was incident-free, and it premiered in a city. It premiered in Toronto, where That's 3 movies in this episode have had something to do with Toronto. Its big premiere.
Shazam was shot in Toronto.
Shazam was shot in Toronto. Suicide Squad. Joker had its worldwide premiere here at the Toronto International Film Festival. And by the way, that's like a historic event because comic book movies, by nature, do not have their big premieres at world-renowned film festivals like Cannes or TIFF. So this was a big deal. And a year before this happened, Toronto had experienced one of the worst, it experienced at the time the worst mass attack in Canadian history because Alec Manassian posted something cryptic on Instagram where he said, "All hail the Supreme Gentleman Elliot Rodger." And he said the incel rebellion had begun and he got into a van and crushed 10 people on a sidewalk in North York. Yeah. That started after Elliot Rodger, in 2014, Alex Crime had started a global conversation about incels and about how isolation and lack of social skills is turning men violent. And the American media played this movie up where they thought there was going to be an incel uprising in the fucking theater and the hysteria was so high that the National Guard was actually put on alert and they sent police officers in American cities to the movie theater to make sure that no one tried anything.
That's right.
I think they were worried about another repeat of Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because that guy called himself the Joker.
Yeah, that's also true.
I think that was another factor too, but that's interesting.
But what I find so fascinating was in the city where the incel conversation got reborn, it premiered at TIFF, and there were no incidents. Joaquin Phoenix rather enjoyed his time here. He did some interviews. He was very friendly to the civilian population.
I mean, TIFF is pretty well secure.
Yeah, well,
it's a pretty secure festival.
Well, Joaquin Phoenix also doesn't really care for the limelight, based on what I've seen in the lack of interviews he does. And apparently he just would spend time on the TTC, just, hanging out with people.
That's cool.
And that sounds really cool.
Too,
yeah. And he kept super uptight about it. The movie, when the movie did have its release, the big fear was all for nothing because they sent police officers to the movie theaters in America. Nothing really happened. I
am very thankful that nothing.
There was no incel uprising, and also Reddit trolls and 4chan trolls were saying yeah, we're gonna use this movie as our launch vehicle to really start our rebellion. They're like, Alec Manassian was just the beginning or some shit. And okay, so you guys they were actual credible threats, and the U.S. intelligence had to do something about it. So they hyped it up, and nothing, thank God, happened. Mm-hmm. I saw it Thanksgiving weekend in Canada, and I saw it by myself, and I hate going to movie theaters by myself, but a bunch of people had canceled on me, and I just said, fuck it, I don't want to wait to see it anymore. I want to see it. I'm going to go see it. I actually teared up in the middle part of this movie.
Yeah, I will say this. The movie is absolutely miserable, but I really love it.
Yeah.
That's my best description. It's absolutely miserable, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I really like the nods to Scorsese's work.
Yeah.
I get such a... they said it themselves, and it's pretty unabashed that it was inspired by the king of comedy as well as Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Also a lot of nods to Chaplin too.
I was inspired to watch Taxi Driver right after I saw Joker, and Taxi Driver has made me feel a very similar I had a very similar emotional reaction to Taxi Driver as I did to Joker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so great movie, and it cleaned up at the Oscars. It was very well. It for the first time, it felt like a comic book movie made it to the Oscars, and it was all earned. Joaquin Phoenix earned that Oscar. Yeah.
Yeah, and also won best score as well.
And that was a female composer too.
Composer, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't the first DC movie to win an Academy Award.
Yeah,
I mean,
we talked about how Heath Ledger won.
And we forgot to mention this: Suicide Squad won Best Makeup.
It beats Star Trek Beyond. I thought that was bullshit.
A little bit, yeah.
Star Trek Beyond.
The award-winning Suicide Squad.
The award-winning Suicide
Yeah, and
Squad.
they actually put that on the DVD jacket.
Of course they did.
Suicide Squad, Oscar award-winning film. What did it? Well, that's just like saying Revenge of the Sith is an Academy Award nominee, because Revenge of the Sith got nominated for makeup too, and that was the only thing it got nominated for. But yeah, so
Michael, what are your thoughts on Joker?
I'm really glad that you brought up Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, because to me, as a cinephile, it's like I like Joker, but I think it's also like really fitting that you do kind of attribute it to those two films.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're a younger moviegoer and you've only ever seen Joker but have not seen those two movies, it's like I do encourage you to kind of continue your film education and watch those two films that inspired this movie. I like Joker. I always really liked Joaquin. He's actually been one of my favorite actors for like the better part of a decade.
Oh wow.
I think he always does do fascinating work.
yeah.
Actually, I'd say more than a decade, because I've been a fan probably since about Walk the Line, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But he does do a lot of fascinating work, and I think that he was really good in this movie. Yeah, I liked it. I'm glad that it was successful in the way that it was, but yeah, I think it really comes down to the fact that it's a lesser version of two films that I really like.
Yeah, it doesn't. The way I see it is, you're right. It is very. It's very indicative of those two movies, and I understand that a lot of people have complained about that. But to me, I kind of take it as a blessing, because we're getting more of those kind of films.
Yeah.
And I really love those ugly, grungy movies of the 70s, and just to see that.
Well,
The way Joker presented it, yes.
The look of Gotham was inspired by New York during an economic crisis and a poverty crisis in the 1980s. Like, there was a time when civil tensions in New York City in the 80s were so high that you couldn't go out on the street without having a gun on your person.
Yeah,
it was
an
that
ugly
bad.
Place to be. Son of Sam era, like
yeah. The Central Park 5 that time or two.
Yeah. Gang violence.
Also, what's really interesting is there's a parallel. The movie, people were acting like this movie was going to send like a battle cry to the alt-right. This movie's political message is apolitical, and it's apolitical even though Thomas Wayne is running for mayor of Gotham, and he's a huge douchebag in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
and I do think that it's interesting. This movie, as we discussed, was getting all sorts of criticism ever before it came out. But one thing that's in the movie, which you would not really know unless you've actually seen the movie, is like they're trying to make the argument that like cutting access to mental health funding is a bad thing.
Yeah.
They're like this is a thing that our society needs. They're trying to make maybe not an argument, but that point is made in the movie.
Yeah, mental health cannot be marginalized. It is a very serious issue.
Yeah. So I think of all the DC movies we discussed tonight, that one has the most profound message of them all. And it's a villain origin story.
I could go for more of Joker and way less of Justice League if I had to say my piece.
Well, we're going to talk about the future, but the last movie on our list. Who here saw Birds of Prey? Because I sure didn't.
Not me. I was very on the fence.
Oh, you're going to have to lead this because we didn't see Birds of Prey. What'd you think?
Okay, I'll lead this. So, Harley Quinn is hands down my favorite part of Suicide Squad. I think she's a bright spot in a not very good movie.
Yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed that this movie did not learn all the lessons it should have from Suicide Squad.
No. Oh no.
I think this is a vastly superior movie to Suicide Squad, but it also struggles with the trying to establish too many characters and having to do it through like weird expositional dumps.
I have heard.
And this is a really weird thing about this movie. This movie saw the success of Deadpool and was basically just like, we're gonna do that because Harley Quinn is established in a different movie, in a Suicide Squad film, which is not a fourth wall breaking movie, but this movie is.
What? Wow.
It's really odd. She talks to the camera and stuff like that, which I thought was like kind of a jarring choice. I didn't expect that to happen, and I don't think it worked as well as they wanted it to.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's like he's not a superhero guy. It's a different friend than I was talking about yesterday. But he told me that he had only ever seen the Deadpool movies because he had heard that they were kind of like parodies or deconstructions of the genre. So he's seen and only ever like a handful of movies of this genre. So he's told me that he saw Deadpool, the Deadpool films, and he saw the Birds of Prey film. I can't remember why he saw that exactly, but he came across it. And he was like the guy who pointed out to me that the movies have like staggeringly kind of similar plots. Like there's just like a lot of plot devices and like kind of things that are like similar about the movie. And once he pointed that out to me, it kind of fell apart. So I like Margot as Harley and not as Harley. Like I think she always does like really, really good work. So she's like a delight to watch. I just wish that the script had been a bit stronger. And it was, I don't know, kind of weird. I really, really wanted this movie to succeed, but to me it just fell a little flat.
Okay. I've heard that for the most part.
How is Ewan McGregor in the movie? Because I love Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I've always liked him. Ever since like Train Spotting, I think he's always done like really consistent, strong work. His character, I don't know. I don't remember a whole lot about it, which is probably not a great thing.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. There's some other character he reminded me of when I was watching it, but now I can't even remember that, so that's not a good sign that it left such a soft impression on me.
Yeah, I also heard that Mary Elizabeth Winstead was kind of underutilized too.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, this movie is... I know this movie had like a weird title change or something, like while it was released for marketing reasons, but... What
was it changed from?
Well, it was from Birds of Prey. I'll pull it up because it is quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then they just changed it to Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, I think.
Or something like that.
I don't get the impression that this is a team-up movie, which really disappoints me. Like, it's primarily a Harley movie, and then, like, the other characters are kind of just, like, there. So, I think that the ensemble aspect of this is severely underplayed. I get that she's, like, the star of the team, but it kind of does a disservice to the team. I don't really remember too many of the characters, nor did I, like, know a lot about them or care a lot about them. So... that was kind of disappointing.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So to wrap this up,
cool, I guess.
What does the future... Birds of Prey was the last movie to really kind of make money in theaters. It wasn't I just looked up the financial figures. It wasn't a big hit. Like, it was a modest hit. It wasn't a huge monster hit, but it was a hit nonetheless. It made double its money, but not double and a half. It made exactly double its money.
It seemed pretty modest. But, you know.
So...
yeah.
Now, talking about the future of what's to come, first of all, the coronavirus lockdowns and closures of movie theaters have really thrown this universe under the bus. Wonder Woman 1984, the long-anticipated sequel to Wonder Woman, which was also directed by Patty Jenkins, has been pushed back to 2021. There is a Snyder cut of Justice League set to premiere in 2022, but it's going to be ABC exclusive, which means you have to buy...
2022?
Is it 2022 or 2021 that they're making
I thought it was January 21.
Yeah, that makes sense because they released a trailer not that long ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Why would you release a trailer for something coming 2 years later? That would.
I'm pretty sure
that's
it's January
torture.
of 21. We can fact check before we put this out, but I'm pretty sure it's January.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming out in 2021 on HBO Max.
Oh, okay. HBO Max. Sorry, not ABC.
Yeah.
How do you... I'm kind of curious to see the Snyder cut of Justice League because he was the original director attached and then Joss Whedon had to take over. I feel like we're going to get a very different film, but it's going to be eye candy, but it's not going to be a good film.
Yeah, it'll be different, but I'm not sure if that's going to make it better. That's my only concern.
It looks like we're going to see the evil Superman suit.
Yeah.
Apparently, this movie is set to clock in at like 4 hours, which
Oh, what the hell?
I hate that.
To me, that's like an aggressive overreaction on Snyder's part. It's like, I don't think that you could make a 4-hour film be that good. I think you're just going ham for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I think he's... it sounds crazy, but do you think he's trying to one-up Endgame? Because they had a 3-hour on-the-dot runtime.
Maybe. It's possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know that he's... I'm not like a huge Snyder guy. I've seen all his movies, but I think it's really just like a very reactive move. I think he was just so disappointed with the critical reception that he was like, I have to get this out there, and I don't think the urgency to show your version of the movie is necessarily going to make it good.
The only reason such urgency exists is because the fans actually petitioned the studio to get this cut. Because the fans called the studio out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did the studio kind of deny the existence of the Snyder Cut and then they petitioned regardless? And then Zack Snyder just said, "Okay, the Snyder Cut is going to come. Like, my version of this movie exists. It'll be out."
Yeah,
soon.
I think that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if there was like a Snyder Cut ready before people started petitioning for it. Like, I kind of think it's what we're gonna ultimately see has probably only been conceived recently. So
Yeah. But hey, maybe we'll get more Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg, and maybe they'll be properly done.
Well, I might go from liking it a little to liking it slightly more, but
even
4 hours long, that sounds tedious to me.
Yeah, but even Steppenwolf looks a fuck of a lot better.
Oh,
in this version.
Steppenwolf looks scary.
Like, he might be done, but I don't know if it'll be any less cliche.
The only thing I liked about Steppenwolf in the movie is his voice. Other than that, he's just a forgettable villain.
Yeah. Who gets kicked? It's funny, like, all the Justice League can't do a dent in him, but then Superman comes out and wipes the floor with him in 2 seconds.
Well, that would have been like, imagine Avengers Endgame where none of the Avengers can touch Thanos, but then the second Cap gets Thor's hammer.
The second Captain Marvel comes out of nowhere and kicks his ass, and it's like...
Well, that almost happened because she ripped his ship like it was a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And... she ripped his ship up
like... But she didn't single-handedly kick his ass. Like, she almost did, but he got the upper hand.
He gave her a run for her money.
Yeah.
So, but we also completely forgot to mention the infamous CGI mustache removal.
Oh, no.
Because Henry Cavill... He was filming Mission Impossible Fallout, I believe, and he was contractually obligated to not shave his mustache for that movie.
Yeah.
And he was super dedicated to that movie, so not only did he refuse, but he abided by his contract. I don't understand why they couldn't have just shot his scenes a little later rather than just... I guess they must have been on a schedule, and that production was also all over the place.
Yeah.
But because you also have to remember the movie went under a ton of reshoots when Whedon came along. Not a ton, but he reshot a lot of the movie, and and that's pretty much it.
Well, there's also the Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
Coming out.
Now there's 2 movies. Well, Wonder Woman 1984 is finished. The question of when it gets released is just another question. But in 2021, assuming I'm kind of curious as to like how they're going to distribute, because in 2021 we're scheduled to see the Suicide Squad, rebooted James Gunn Suicide Squad,
which I'm super excited
and
for.
the Batman, which just cast Robert Pattinson.
I am actually very excited for this one.
I'm looking forward to that.
The trailer was sexy as fuck.
Yeah. Now, there's something I'm gonna feel like a douchebag for saying this because I don't know if it's too soon, but the novel coronavirus outbreak was started because someone ate a bad bat, and
sure enough,
and
look who happens to get it, but none other than Robert Pattinson.
But as of this recording, supposedly he's fine and they've resumed production on the Batman. So history has a weird way of working itself.
Kind of a sick sense of humor, if you ask me.
It really does. So, but I'm curious because we're seeing, in terms of distribution, like we're seeing a lot of innovation with the times. We're seeing movies get theatrical releases in other countries that aren't the United States. We're seeing Disney take their biggest hit that they thought was going to be bankable, Mulan, and give it premiere access on Disney Plus. What do you think's going to happen with the Suicide Squad and the Batman? Because if the talk about COVID-19 is true, then it doesn't look like movie theaters are going to be safe for at least until early 2022, which is really, really sad.
Oh, man.
It sucks for everyone. You think we're like crying about this? The concert going industry is in serious shit because they're not going to be. It says that they're not going to have. It's not going to be able to.
Yeah.
There's not going to. Apparently, they're not expected to have any concerts until maybe mid 2022, which is really sad. So. We're stuck in this situation for a while.
This decade has gone to a really lame start.
It really has. Well, maybe we'll see a miracle. Maybe the virus will burn itself out faster than expected. I'm trying to be the optimist, but so far we have no choice but to listen to certain experts, and those experts are all saying the same things, roughly the same things. So
do we want to call this a day?
Well, first I want to talk about how you feel about do you think that they're going to put these movies on streaming service, or do you think they're just going to delay them until it's safe to go to the theater again? Because the best case scenario we can hope for is they open up theaters at full capacity, but they just mandate everyone wear masks.
I think that's probably the more likely course of action for now.
Yeah, because I think it's more lucrative for them to have people go to theaters rather than do streaming. Because remember how the Mulan thing turned out? A lot of people had a lot of negative criticism about the $30 paywall.
Not only that, those people who did pay the $35 to see it weren't impressed.
Well, yeah, because it was pay-per-view as well.
No, not only was it pay-per-view, apparently the movie wasn't very good.
Yeah, you said that, but it was also pay-per-view.
Yeah, pay-per-view.
So that's annoying as well. And then it's just going to be free again once December rolls around.
Oh yeah, because they're just going to dump it on the streaming service.
Like, what the fuck's the point?
So
yeah, at this point, streaming, while it is kind of in its infancy, like in terms of like streaming, like full-on releases, like I think theater going is like their main bread and butter.
Yeah,
it's not going away anytime soon.
But it's in trouble right now. So
it is in trouble. Like I don't know. We'll have to see.
I feel like I think that they're just going to do like what they're doing with Wonder Woman. They're just going to delay it until the theaters are safe. I hope that's what happens because I rather enjoy the movie-going experience.
Anyways, some might not agree with you, Evan.
And
that's...
I'm just one guy, and I know that there's a lot of disagreement. But just to talk, we talked last night at the end of the Marvel episode about superhero fatigue.
Let's continue.
I feel like DC suffers a similar issue. Well, DC actually has gone like several years without like a big hit movie, but Marvel has just been cranking out stuff nonstop since 2002. And
I think the thing of it is that DC is trying to do what Marvel is doing, and they're not having a very good go of it. So I think the cinematic universe thing is trying to, like, it's been done so many other times with things outside of DC. Yeah.
But
it's just like it feels like Marvel's the only one that's doing it correctly.
Well, if you look at the tandems between the two studios, you have to like realize the first superhero that people flocked to see was a DC hero. That was Batman.
Yeah, Batman, which sometimes feels like their most lucrative IP.
Yeah, that's why this episode is called DC, but mostly Batman.
Yeah, because it is mostly Batman. I mean, we're starting to see more. We're starting to see Wonder Woman. We're starting to see Aquaman. And we're gonna see Flash not too far into the future. So that's something to look forward to. I hope.
But but one of the things you notice is that they hit the $1 billion comic book milestone box office intake bullseye. They hit that milestone before Marvel ever did. Marvel eventually caught up, but I feel like every time DC breaks a record, Marvel breaks another record. Like the first really progressive superhero movie was Wonder Woman, and then Marvel did that similar with Black Panther, and then they tried and failed to do that with female progression with Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel even made its money.
It was successful, but it wasn't as well liked as Wonder Woman.
Oh, that's very true. And also, so now that Joker exists, how do you think Marvel is going to respond with that? Do you think that they're going to take an IP and explore mental health with a Marvel property? And which Marvel property could do it?
Mentally deficient Marvel character.
I feel like if they gave the Hulk another solo film, they might be able to explore that avenue.
Another Punisher movie would be cool.
Yeah.
If they want to go really grim, but the problem is I don't know how Disney's gonna feel about that. They might have to rub off the dust on Touchstone Pictures and maybe try to aim for that.
Well,
but
what I've learned from talking about these two universes, these two comic book companies that have been churning out movies over the years, superhero fatigue tends to come in waves. Like, we go through a period where we're tired of it, and then a new movie like Joker or Endgame will come along and will just reinvest everyone's interest in the series. So I feel like this trend is not going to die anytime soon, and it's open for so much innovation, and I just look forward to where that innovation is going to go.
Yeah,
so guys,
it's kind of similar to what I was saying at the end of the Marvel episode, but it's like, as far as superhero fatigue goes, I mean, I don't think I'll ever get bored of watching good movies. So if they continue to still do interesting things with the genre, like, I will be there. I know this was a very Batman focused episode, and rightfully so, but I feel like Batman is an interesting enough character that I will kind of always be into what he's doing. I'll always be excited for a new Batman movie.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, it's been fun. Thank you very much for tuning in to this 2-part series. We look forward to having Michael Lake back on in the future. So to speak out. That's all we can say. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Later.